Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime on this Thursday as we feature Sunday, May 30th, 1948, with episodes of Counterspy and the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, both from that Sunday. We'll also have episodes, another one from that day, of Nick Carter, Master Detective, starring Lon Clark. Then we'll go to 1952 for an episode of The Lives of Harry Lime, starring Orson Welles, and another episode of Superman. That's all straight ahead on this happy it's Thursday. This is the 30th day of May. Used to be Decoration Day or Memorial Day up until 1970, and then they moved it all to the last Monday in May so everybody could get a 3-day holiday. Messed with a lot of stuff. 151st day of the year, 215 days until we get to 2025. Your question of the day is, what was the first American-built locomotive? We'll tell you about that in a few moments. After I tell you that it was on this date in 1431, that Joan of Arc was burned at the stake as a heretic. In 1536, King Henry VIII of England married his third wife, Jane Seymour, 11 days after he had had his second wife, Anne Boleyn, executed. The first Indianapolis 500 won on this date in 1911 by Ray Harron. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington dedicated on this date in 1922 by Chief Justice William Howard Taft. Babe Ruth played in his last baseball game on this date in 1935 in the uniform of the Boston Braves. The bodies of several unidentified soldiers killed in action during World War II and the Korean War buried on this date in 1958 at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. An earthquake in northern Afghanistan on this date and the aftershocks killed an estimated 5,000 people and injured at least 1,500 back in 1998. A quake in the same area on February 4th killed about 2,300. 1998, Jerry Halliwell announced she was leaving the Spice Girls. In 2003, the final flight of an Air France Concorde took place. And in 2020, the Crew Dragon Demo 2 launched from the Kennedy Space Center, becoming the first crewed orbital spacecraft to launch from the U.S. since 2011 and the first commercial flight to the International Space Station. The first American-built locomotive? Well, it was the Tom Thumb. On this date in 1830, the Tom Thumb pulled over 4 tons at 15 miles an hour. It was constructed by Peter Cooper. However, that year it lost a famous race with a horse-drawn car. That was, Anyway, of those passing away on this date, in addition to Joan of Arc, I include the French philosopher and author Voltaire, some racers that were killed in the Indy 500, Floyd Roberts in the 1939 Indy, Bill Vukovich killed in the 55 Indy 500. Also passing away on this date, actor Dooley Wilson, also the musician Sun Ra, Tex Beneke, fine band leader, singer, sax player, and Claude Rains.
Alex, forgive me.
What do you mean?
I thought you meant to ruin Carol.
How should I ruin him, if you please?
By putting Gribble in.
Gribble? Oh, I use Gribble as an understudy. I told you I didn't trust your husband's nerve.
I know, but I thought you meant to put him in anyway, no matter how well Carol played.
You know, I have encountered a variety of infatuated women in my time. None so far has had the effrontery to suggest that I would employ my music as an instrument of revenge.
You're right, I'm ashamed.
Moreover, if I wish to obliterate such a rival as your talented but highly neurotic husband, I should employ simpler measures. I would raise his unstable mind to the highest pinnacles. I might allow my music to do that. And then strike him down with unlovelier but more appropriate weapons.
Weapons? What weapons?
His own weakness, my dear, and his charming wife. Let him play the concert. Let him soar to the utmost heights. And then, after the concert, maybe at supper, casually, one of those little phrases, you know. Careless reminiscence of a year or two ago.
Oh, no, Alex.
A tiny, innocent appearing bombshell.
But you wouldn't.
You think not?
From the 1946 motion picture Deceptions, Claude Rains could be an evil, evil man. Claude Rains, passing away on this date in 1967. Let's look at some birthdays on this date, and we have to mention, if you're a radio person or a movie person, a cartoon person, you have to remember this man. The best voice in the world, Mel Blanc.
What's up, Doc?
Go, I say go away, boy, you bother me. Where are you, pigeon? I am looking for you.
I call pudding cat. That's all, folks.
The story of how Mel Blanc was in a coma until somebody started addressing Bugs Bunny, and that brought Mel out of it. An amazing story. They talked to Bugs, and Bugs got Mel going again. Mel Blanc, born on this date all the way back in 1908. Also, dancer, actor Stephen Fetchit, Cheyenne Bodie in the TV series Cheyenne, Clinton Walker, born on this date, actress Meredith McRae, and we cannot go away without mentioning one of the best licorice stick players in the world. That's the clarinet, for those of you who don't know. Benny Goodman. Small side order of Let's Dance from Benny Goodman, who was born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
From 2001 and 2010, Keir Dullea is 88 years old today. He was Miles O'Brien in Star Trek The Next Generation. Cole Meany is 71. Winona Judd is 60 years old. From Supernatural and the Battlestar Galactica reboot, Mark Shepard is 60. From Rent, Wicked, Frozen, Idina Menzel is 53. The guy who sang about "Don't You Know He's Crazy?" CeeLo Green, 50 years old today. From the Phantom of the Opera film, Jennifer Ellison is 41. And he's still with us, though death's tried to take him a bunch of times. Jake the Snake Roberts is 69 today.
Jake the Snake Roberts, the match is at hand.
Well, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Here we are at WrestleMania, and it's the biggest match of your career. Why? Because everything you stand for is on the line, namely the $1 Million belt. Oh, yeah. It can be yours once again. You see, all you have to do to get it back is go through Damien and me. But you see, Damien and I don't forget. We remember all the times you made people grovel for your money. These were people far less fortunate than you. People who could use your money for essentials. And what did you do? You made fun of them. You humbled them, and you humiliated them. Well, now it's my turn. I'm going to make you beg, DiBiase. You are going to get down on your hands and knees. This time, you'll be the one that's humbled. This time, you'll be the one that's humiliated. And this time, you will be the one that grovels for the money. And how appropriate that the money you grovel for is your very own. A victim of your own greed, wallowing in the muck of avarice.
Longfellow couldn't have said it better.
Jake the Snake Roberts, 69 years old today. Those just a few of the people celebrating birthdays on this 30th day of May. And if this is your birthday,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
And we have 3 shows today from our highlight day. 76 years ago today, May 30th, 1948. We'll hear Lon Clark as Nick Carter, Master Detective, and the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. But first, we're going to hear Counterspy, starring Don MacLaughlin and Mandel Kramer, and the case of the Photogenic Crook. That's up next when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues.
People in free countries abroad, no matter what their current image of our nation may be, are curious to know more about America and Americans. The printing presses of the Soviet Union are working at full speed to make sure that the picture they get of the United States is a slanderous one, a distorted view of our nation and its citizens. The range of books distributed by the communists throughout the free world is enormous, and their sheer volume staggering. There is something you can do as an individual to make sure that students and interested readers are able to learn the truth about us through a program called Books from America. Take a look at your bookshelves. If you have American literary classics, recent American histories or geographies, modern English grammars and language study texts, these in good condition and hard-bound, you can help combat communist propaganda. Mail them to Books from America, Box 1960, Washington 13, D.C. That's Books from America, Box 1960, Washington 13, D.C.
We've told the story of Phillips H. Lords and how he created kind of a mini enterprise in just producing programs. Back in his 20s, he created a national radio personality, Seth Parker, a clergyman and backwoods philosopher based on his real-life grandfather, Hosea Phillips. And he wrote stories for radio of rural New England humor that included the playing of old-timey songs back then. And it went on for some time. But he had a thing that was put together back in late 1933 where he was going to sail through the sunken civilizations of the South Sea Islands. He set sail, and things didn't go particularly well. The ship got damaged to the point where they had to abandon the expedition, and it spelled the end of the radio program. And things just sort of fell apart at that point. The schooner that he was sailing in got sold, and it went on. But after that, he decided to do a new radio program after that. He switched from the kindly character to a dark and ominous narrator's voice as the crime fighters of American broadcasting. The show started out as G-Men, and there was cooperation with the FBI on doing this sort of thing. But J. Edgar Hoover wanted a more fact-based show. He wanted a show that was more meat and less flash. And so that show ended up being abandoned after just a year, and ended up being retooled by Phillips H. Lords as Gangbusters. And it became a huge success. The show ran from 1935 to 1957, but we're not talking about Gangbusters right now. We're talking about the show that kind of came out of Phillips H. Lords' problems of working with the FBI. he ended up creating a fictional agency called the Counterspies. At first, they would fight World War II, and then Nazis, and then they would end up fighting, gangs, not gangs, but the organized crime, and they would go on to other things. And today, you're going to kind of hear a bank robber being busted by the Counterspies. This goes back 76 years to Sunday, May 30th, 1948, 5:30 Eastern Time, over what used to be the Blue Network, but had just been renamed the American Broadcasting Company. This is Counterspy.
David Harding, Counterspy, presented by the makers of Old Nick and Bit of Honey candy bars. And today, the makers of delicious Old Nick and Bit of Honey candy bars present a special offer that means money saved for you.
We homemakers know that slicing knives with blades that are hollow ground usually cost $2 and more.
But we offer you today a 13-inch stainless steel slicing knife with a special process hollow ground blade for only 25 cents in coin, with 2 wrappers from either Old Nick or Bit of Honey candy bars, sent to Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. We'll repeat the address and complete details later, so have pencil and paper ready.
Washington, calling David Harding, Counterspy. Washington, calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy. Calling Washington.
David Harding, Chief, United States Counterspies, especially appointed to investigate and combat the enemies of our country, both at home and abroad, and to secure for every American the rights which are his under our Constitution.
Send Mr. Butler in now, please.
Mr. Tiffin?
That's right, Mr. Butler. Come right in. Sit down.
Thank you.
I don't mind telling you that your phone call earlier this morning aroused a great deal of curiosity.
I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Tiffin. It should make things easier for me.
Tell me, Mr. Butler, why did you come all the way to Kelby, Pennsylvania? Why did you choose the Kelby National Bank? There must be a score of other banks closer to Hollywood which would serve your purpose.
Oh, we could have picked any number of banks, Mr. Tiffin, but none would be as authentic for this particular scene we wanted to film. There's quite a trend, you know, in making the so-called documentary type of picture. Real people in real locations.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Tiffin and I have seen several pictures like that.
Well, then, you know the realism we're looking for. We're filming the life of Pretty Boy Loveton.
Oh.
Yes. Of all his holdups, one of the most spectacular took place right here.
I'll never forget that day. I was standing near the teller's cage when it happened.
That's exactly what we want to show. You and the regular personnel of this bank.
Me? Oscar Tiffin in a moving picture?
Why not? Could anyone else act the part so realistically?
What would this entail on the bank's part, and when would you like to do it?
At the most, a 2-hour interruption in your normal routine.
Oh, is that all?
That's all. We'll shoot the scene without sound, so that any extraneous noises won't interrupt the shooting. We'll put the sound on film later. As for when we'd like to do it, the sooner the better. Tomorrow morning, if possible.
Tomorrow?
Yes. I've got my crew standing by, and time is money in any business, Mr. Tiffin.
Oh, yes. I wish other businesses would learn that.
Of course, tomorrow's Friday, and I imagine with payrolls and everything...
Oh, that's not a problem, particularly if it'll only take 2 hours. Our bank is organized efficiently enough to handle its business even with a little interruption.
Then tomorrow will be all right?
Yes, Mr. Butler. If you can finish before 11:30.
Perhaps even before that.
I see. Will there be any stars in this scene?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're using doubles. These will be long shots. We'll take close-ups of the stars back in Hollywood.
I see.
Just one thing more. I want to arrange for a police guard to keep curiosity seekers out of camera range.
Oh, yes, of course, certainly. You see the mayor. He'll take care of you. In fact, I'll phone him and tell him you're coming.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Tiffin. That'll be a big help. Good day, sir.
Glad to do it. Goodbye.
Come in. Sergeant Lynn?
Yep.
I'm Mr. Butler.
Oh, you're the fellow who's going to turn Kelby Pa into Hollywood Cal.
What?
Pa and Cal, little joke on the abbreviation.
Oh, yes. Well, Sergeant...
Know all about it. Commissioner called and said the mayor said to give you all the cooperation in the world. Well, I can't do that, but I can give you all the cooperation in Kelby, PA.
That will be sufficient, Sergeant. Now, what I want...
You got 'em. Give you the best men on the force. 9:30 tomorrow morning, Commissioner said. That right?
Yes, it is.
Going to need some folks inside the bank, aren't you?
Well, there'll be...
Well, my wife, Agatha, is a regular depositor there. She'd be glad to help you out. Always hankering after movies anyhow. Be true to life, too. Sticks every cent I make in there.
Oh, I'll be happy to have your wife in the picture, Sergeant.
What time you want her to be there?
The same time you come with the police.
Right. 9:30 it is. I'd better call her and tell her all about it. Give her a chance to primp up some. You know how a woman is about those things.
I understand. See you tomorrow morning, then. Sergeant?
Right here, Mr. Butler.
We're going to start shooting in a few minutes.
Gotcha. Everything's all set out here. Got officers at both ends of the block diverting traffic, and these men here will hold back pedestrians.
Good. Now, I'll give you a picture of what's going to happen so that none of your men can get into camera range.
I'm listening, Mr. Butler. How's Agatha doing?
Agatha? Oh, fine. Excellent. Just the type we need for the picture.
Yeah? Good.
Now, you know we're shooting this silent.
Yep.
But there still may be plenty of sound made. People yelling, guns shooting, and perhaps even the burglar alarm will be set off.
I see.
I want to mirror the sound of the excitement in the faces of the people in the picture.
Gotcha, Mr. Butler.
Now, first, after the robbery, I'll back out of the door there. Then, the two cameramen will come after me, and we'll all get in the first car.
Right.
Then, Mr. Black and Miss Smith will come out with drawn guns and get into the second car.
I see.
We'll both speed off, and as soon as we've turned the corner, you can let things go back to normal. Unless, of course, we need another take.
It's all straight.
One thing more. Mr. Tiffin and some of the bank employees will come out shouting, help, robbery, police. Don't get between them and the camera. I want some shots of that.
You bet.
Now that that's straight, I guess we'd better get started. See you, Sergeant. Well, Mr. Tiffin, are you all ready?
Oh, yes, but I haven't met.
Oh, of course. Mr. Black, Mr. Oscar Tiffin, president of the Kelby National Bank. Mr. Black is our version of Pretty Boy Loveton.
How do you do?
And this is Miss Smith, Pretty Boy's girlfriend.
Hello.
How do you do? Haven't I seen you someplace before?
That's not an original line, Mr. Tiffin.
Oh, no, I didn't mean... Well, that is... No, really, I'm sure I've seen you in a picture, perhaps.
Maybe. I've been...
Yeah, she gets around. Maybe you have. All right, come on, let's get started.
Right, Mr. Black. Mr. Tiffin, will you get in back of the teller's enclosure?
Certainly.
All right, now, everybody. I'll be talking all through this. React the way I want you to. Cameras ready?
All right.
Good. All right, let them roll. Go to work, Mr. Black.
Okay, everybody, this is a stick-up.
A little more frightened, please.
Keep your hands at your sides, stand still, and nobody will get hurt.
That's the way.
Baby.
Yeah, pretty boy.
Get the cages clean out the dough, every cent of it.
Right.
Good. Be awe-stricken, Mr. Tiffin.
Come on, baby, step on.
Don't really touch the money. You'll mix...
Shut up, you.
You heard the man, Mr. Tiffin. And I'll tell you a secret. That gun hasn't got blanks, it's got real bullets.
What?
You see, this picture is going to be the last word in realism. We're robbing your bank for keeps.
What?
You'll notice the cameramen have guns also. And they're loaded, too.
How you doing, baby?
One more case to go.
Well, you can't do this.
Why not call for the police, then? They're expecting it. Or you could set off the burglar alarm. They're waiting to hear that.
All right, big shot. You're not on the stage now. Cut the hammering.
I got it all.
Okay. Now listen. Anybody gets wise, comes running out right after us, stops running permanently. You get it?
Let's go.
Stick to the plan. I go out first. Those two hoods follow me, and then you come.
Okay, but step on that ham bone. I'm getting nervous.
Come on, you two.
How's it going, Mr. Butler?
Perfect, Sergeant. Perfect.
Agatha, all right?
Wonderful. In the car, you two.
Remember, anyone comes out here before the car starts gets a bullet out of this gun.
All right, get in the bus, baby.
Right.
That's it. Perfect. All right, let's get out of here.
Police! Robbery!
Stop them, Sergeant!
Hey, that's good, Mr. Tiffin. You ought to make acting your business.
Acting? That was no acting, you blockhead. They
What?
really held up the bank.
What?
They weren't actors. They were crooks. They cleaned out the bank. Over
No.
$200,000 in payroll money. Don't stand there like a lunkhead. Get after them. Get after them.
Yes, Peter?
It's got a teletype flash, Mr. Harding. Federal Reserve Bank robbery in Kelby, Pennsylvania.
Any details?
The amount's over $200,000.
200,000. Wire our nearest counterspy office. Have them send out a mobile laboratory.
Right, Chief.
I'll order a plane. You stand by for further details. We'll leave for Kelby as soon as we can.
Oh, honest, Gus. Did you ever see a look to match that banker's face when I told him it was a real holdup?
You didn't get a load of that dame near the teller's window, Marty. She just passed right out.
That was Agatha, the sergeant's wife. I'll bet he's hearing from her right now.
Look, Marty, let's not be so happy about this. We're not out of it yet.
What are you worrying about, Gus? We switched cars, paid off the boys, and still have over $150,000, and we're heading for New York.
Well, I won't be happy until we're there. I don't like it out in the sticks.
How much did you pay those guys, Marty?
$10,000 apiece. The highest fee any cameraman ever got for such little work.
You know, I half wish you'd taken pictures. I'd give anything to see how I looked.
That'd be all we'd need, Dolly. Pictures of us.
Stick to your driving, Gus. We want to make New York by morning. Dolly,
What?
I did.
Did what?
Took pictures.
What?
What's the matter with you two?
Nothing, guys, nothing. I just got rid of my stockings.
Oh, that's a dame for you.
No kidding, Marty. Yeah. Camera's loaded with film. Should have the whole thing in here.
Gus isn't gonna like that.
We'll destroy it after we see it. Trouble is, I don't know how to get it printed. Can't send it to a commercial laboratory.
I know a guy does that work. Makes movies.
We just can't.
Oh, he's okay. I got enough on him to hang him. He'd do it for free for me.
I'd like to see them.
Yeah, so would I. I better not tell Gus. Not till they're ready, anyway.
Hey, what are you two whispering about back there, anyhow?
It's a surprise, Gus.
I don't like surprises. Why don't you get some sleep? I'm not going to drive this bus all night. One of you will have to take over later.
Right, Gus. I'll get some shut-eye and take over whenever you say. Excuse me, folks, while I sleep the sleep of the idle rich.
We'll continue our David Harding counter-spy case for Old Nick in a moment. I wish there was some way you could look into your radio there and see what I've got in my hand. Because if you could actually see this stainless steel slicing knife, you'd know what a remarkable value it is. It's guaranteed to compare with knives costing 75 cents to $1. Because of a new secret process, we've been able to have this knife hollow ground. And that's a feature usually found only in knives costing $2 or more. But you can have one of these knives for only a quarter with 2 wrappers from delicious Old Nick or Bit of Honey candy bars. Mrs. Clarendon, will you describe this knife for our listeners?
As you homemakers probably know, a slicing knife is long and slim, adaptable for use either as a butcher knife or as a carving knife. Our stainless steel slicing knife is nearly 13 inches long. Because it's stainless steel, it's easy to clean. It keeps its silvery luster for a lifetime. Our slicing knife is hollow ground, which means it has an extra keen cutting edge, like a fine carving knife. The handle is polished blonde hard wood, designed to fit your hand smoothly and comfortably with a non-slip grip. I know you'll find this is one of the most useful knives you've ever had in your home.
Friends, send today for your stainless steel slicing knife. For each knife you want, send 25 cents in coin and 2 wrappers from either Old Nick or Bit of Honey. Send to Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. Please use coin. Do not use stamps or checks. I know you'll enjoy using your stainless steel slicing knife because many people have sent in a second time. That proves that they like the knife and that they think it's a remarkable value. Remember, that's 2 wrappers from Old Nick or Bit of Honey candy bars with 25 cents in coin sent to Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. This offer must be withdrawn very soon, so be sure of your stainless steel slicing knife. Now, back to our Old Nick, David Harding counter-spy case.
I don't think I'll ever be able to live this down, Mr. Harding, not ever.
Now, Mr. Tiffin, don't be too hard on yourself.
To be taken in by such a fantastic scheme.
Well, a less fantastic scheme probably wouldn't have been successful. You've read how pranksters have opened street excavations or imposters have posed as foreign diplomats. As a matter of fact, we have records telling how moving vans have been backed right up to closed-down homes and the contents just taken away. All in broad daylight with no attempt at secrecy.
They certainly had a bold plan this time, Mr. Harding.
Well, that very boldness did half of the criminals' work for them. I'm not sure that I wouldn't have been taken in by this scheme myself.
I wired to the address this butler gave me and got back a very impressive answer.
Well, I'm having that address checked now. Probably it's just a mail drop.
The whole thing is so incredible.
Well, now, try to calm down, Mr. Tiffin. See if you can describe the people involved. This man, Butler, you remember what he looked like?
I'll never forget.
Let's have the description, then.
He was 5'9" or 10, blue eyes, bald-headed, pale complexion, had a little red mustache. Very smooth talker.
Yes, I can imagine. What about the other two who were supposed to be actors?
Well, they both had makeup on. The man, I can't tell you much about. He just impressed me as a Hollywood-type gangster.
And the woman?
Now, there's something. I'm sure I've seen her before.
Oh, you have?
But I can't for the life of me remember where or when.
On a trip someplace, perhaps?
I just don't know, Mr. Harding.
Well, forget about it for a while. Those things can't be forced. Now, anything else you can think of? Something that happened during or before the robbery?
Oh, yes, there was one thing that struck me a little queer.
What was that?
The tough, the man who was supposed to be Pretty Boy Lufton, he told Butler to stop hamming, that he wasn't on the stage.
Oh?
He made it sound like Butler was the actor instead of him. And he was, because he certainly fooled me.
And a few other people.
Oh, thank heaven for that. It takes some of the edge off my stupidity.
Oh, Peter, did you get anything out of the sergeant?
Nothing but volcanic eruptions, Chief. I've never seen a man so angry.
You can hardly blame him.
State troopers just called in. They found 2 abandoned cars about 20 miles out of town. One of them a station wagon. Both answer the description of the cars used in the holdup.
We better get out there, then.
Oh, I've got it, Mr. Harding.
What?
The girl, where I saw her before.
Yeah?
It was in a picture.
An actress?
Well, yes. We had a businessman's dinner about 4 or 5 months ago. We showed some commercial pictures. She was in one of them.
Would you know where you got them?
No, I don't, but the secretary of our entertainment committee would know.
Well, call him and get the address. Then stay here until you hear from me. I'll get in touch with you as soon as we look over those abandoned cars.
Now, they switched cars here, all right, Chief. Bronson from our laboratory says there are impressions of 3 different sets of tires.
Well, there's this makeup kit that interests me.
Tiffin said the 2 actors wore makeup.
I don't know much about the theater, but this looks like a professional kit to me.
New York manufacturer. We can't try tracing it.
Yeah, we will. What about the car? Stolen?
Yes, the station wagon belongs to a New York florist. Bronson scraped off that Picture Productions label on the door. The florist's name was underneath.
New York. One crook tells another to stop hamming. A makeup kit. Plenty of theater in this crime.
The whole idea was theatrical.
And it worked. Is there a phone in this laboratory unit?
Yes, Chief. Who are you going to call?
Tiffin. I want to find out if he's got the address of the place where his club got those films.
No.
Operator.
This is Harding, Counterspy Mobile Unit. Please connect me with Mr. Tiffin at the Bank of Kelby.
One moment, sir.
Thank you. That's a funny thing. When Pretty Boy Lofton held up the bank at Kelby, he got just about the same amount of money.
Took him longer to do the job, though.
Hello?
These modern crooks with their new equipment. Oh, hello, Mr. Tiffin. This is Harding.
Oh, yes, sir. I got that address.
Good. May I have it?
Carl Genoa, 1532 North Broadway, New York.
Everything's in New York.
Except us.
We'll remedy that. Mr. Tiffin.
Yes?
Can you take time off from the bank for a trip to New York?
If it will help solve this, certainly.
Well, I hope it will. Pack some clothes. You may be a day or two. Now, Mr. Peters and I'll pick you up on our way in. We'll go right out to the airport.
Flight 2 from Boston arriving on runway 3. Plane for Chicago will be delayed 10 minutes.
You counterspies work fast, Mr. Harding. I never dreamed I'd be at LaGuardia Airport this evening.
Speed's half the battle against crime, Mr. Tiffin. Have you got everything straight, Peters?
Yes, Chief. I checked the manufacturer of the makeup kit and then dropped in on Genoa and looked through his film catalog for the girl.
Right.
And keep in touch with you through Brewster of Theatrical Weekly.
That's right.
And we're going to see him, Mr. Harding?
Yes. He's one of the editors. Theatrical Weekly probably has more pictures of actors on file than any other place. I've asked Brewster to search through those files and pick out every actor's picture that fits the description you gave us. You'll have 1,000 of them to look at least.
I'm willing and able, Mr. Harding.
Well, I hope you feel the same way at the end of the night. All right, Peters, get going. I'll hear from you by phone.
There you are, Mr. Harding. 827 pictures of actors 30 to 35 years old, 5 feet 8 to 5 feet 11 inches tall, including elevator shoes.
Oh, Mr. Brewster, I said bald also.
You don't know actors, Mr. Harding. There are no bald ones between 30 and 35. They all wear toupees, particularly when they have their pictures taken.
Oh, dear me. Yes, I know, Mr. Tiffin. Do you think you could detect some resemblance even if he is wearing a toupee?
It's possible.
Well, I'll tell you
yes,
what. You lay aside any picture that looks even faintly like this man Butler. Then I'll have all those retouched and you can go over them again.
Well, I'll try, Mr. Harding.
Good. Mr. Brewster, have you got any spot where Mr. Tiffin might look at these pictures undisturbed?
Next office, we'll carry the pictures in
All
there.
right, I have.
Just put them on that desk and pull up a chair.
Thank you.
Now, take all the time you want, Mr. Tiffin. Don't overlook a single picture he might fit.
I'll do my best, Mr. Harding.
Tell me, Mr. Harding, do you really think an actor engineered this job?
Well, the circumstances all point to it.
Well, then you're in luck.
What do you mean?
He'll pull some boner, trip himself up somehow.
He hasn't so far. The whole schemes have been pretty clever. He's played his part beautifully.
That's the trouble with actors. They let a good part blind them to a bad play. He'll mess up the end some way, whoever he is.
You don't seem to be very fond of actors.
Me, I love them, adore them. They're the most charming children in the world, but spare me from their thinking.
Go on. I could use a little insight into the psychology of an actor.
Well, I have the greatest respect in the world for them as actors. As anything else, no. In fact, they should be quick frozen.
What?
Yeah, like meat. You put them in a pot, let them play it. Then when it's over, you put them in a quick freezer until another pot comes along. This way you don't have to pay them or feed them, and all they have to do is act. Which is all they want to do anyway, the screwballs.
That's a novel idea, at least.
Yes, actors should be quick probably the call you were expecting, Mr. Harding. You take it.
Oh, thank you. Hello?
Is Mr. Harding?
Speaking, Peter.
Oh, Chief.
You got something?
Yes, but I don't believe it.
What?
It just doesn't happen this way.
What are you talking about? Did the makeup kit turn up anything?
Makeup kit? Who cares for that? Chief, I'm calling you from the offices of Carl Genoa.
You knew the girl?
You, the girl. Look, Chief, now, I have not been drinking. Get that cleared.
It makes some sense, Peters.
I can't, because I just walked in as Genoa finished processing a moving picture of the holdup.
What?
That's right. They really took pictures.
Oh, no.
I said the same thing, Chief, but I'm holding the film in my hand.
How could anybody be so stupid?
I'll bite. How?
You stay there. I'll be over right away.
Don't worry. I couldn't move now. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Did something happen, Mr. Harding?
They actually took pictures of the holdup.
See, I knew it. I knew he'd pull a boner.
That's so stupid. How could anybody...
Actor psychology, Mr. Harding. It's not stupidity, it's vanity. There isn't a ham in the world who'd pass up a chance to look at himself acting.
Yeah? Well, that's one picture I'm going to see right now. All right, Genoa, are you going to tell us where the man who brought you this picture lives?
I don't know where he lives, Mr. Harding.
You just print films for anyone?
He was sent by a girl I know, Dolly Norton.
Of course, you had no idea that there was a bank robbery on the film.
No, look, I got nothing to do with bank robberies. I got my own business.
I'm sure you have. What kind is it that gives the crook such confidence in you?
Well, that's my affair. You want to arrest me, you got to prove something.
At the moment, I'm not interested in the films you're peddling. I'm interested in this man.
Why don't you take the picture, make blow-ups? You can put his face in every post office in the country.
That's the hard way. You're going to help us do it the easy way.
I don't want to get any more mixed up in this than I am already.
You think you have a choice?
You're going to give the picture to the man who brought it in.
But this
and
is
just
not...
to make sure you don't get cute, Peters is going to stay here with you. I'll be outside, Peters. If anybody picks up that film, we tail him.
Right, Chief.
But I don't know when he's coming. Who knows how long you'll have to wait?
That's all right, Genoa. We've got plenty of time. If you don't cooperate with us, you'll get plenty of time, too.
All right, Dolly, what is it? What's the idea of this meeting?
It's a surprise, Gus.
What kind of a surprise?
Wait till Marty gets it.
That ham? Told you we were finished with him the minute the job was over.
Now, Gus, you gotta admit it was a good idea. Look all the dough we made.
And I don't care. Ever since we tied in with him, I've been unhappy. The way he thinks. Comes at you from left field.
Nevertheless, we still got a lot of dough.
Yeah. And I'd rather do a straight stick-up for less cash. That's the way it's going to be from now on. Now, what's this surprise?
Well...
Come on, Dolly. Don't be cute.
All right. We got pictures of the job.
You what?
There was film in the camera.
Lavolta, are you crazy?
Don't get excited, Gus. Nobody will see him but us.
Oh, no, you can't be on the level. You're kidding, aren't you?
No, really.
What did Marty do? Take him down to the corner drugstore to be developed?
Of course not. I told him about Genoa. He did the job for him.
It's another guy in on it here.
Oh, you know Genoa. He can't say anything to anybody about anything. Not with what I got on him.
Did you know that he was going to do this, Dolly?
No, he told me after. That's him now.
Let him in.
Hello, Dolly. I
I told Gus, Marty. I thought he'd want to see him, too.
Come in here, you spindle-headed, bird-brained Barrymore.
Now, just a minute, Gus.
Hey, give me those films before you play the best death scene you ever played in your life.
Oh, look, this whole job was my idea. I got some rights in it.
I'll give you rights in the head.
Gus, it's done. At least let's look at the pictures, and then we can burn them.
What's he going to use for eyes when I get through with them?
You got a lot of money from my idea, Gus.
And I'll get a lot of time, too. You give me those films or so help me.
No, Gus.
Put your gun away, Gus.
You heard the lady, Gus. Put it away. On the floor. Yes, we wouldn't like to shoot.
Who are you?
United States Counterspies. Come on, Gus, drop it.
Counterspy.
Now, Butler, you'll give Mr. Peters those films?
Right here, Butler.
But how? You don't know. You can't.
Go ahead, Hambone. Get an idea for this scene.
But I figured something. All the parts.
You had a bad final act, Butler. We didn't like it, so we're rewriting it right now. All right, Peters, bring him along.
Mr. Harding will return in just a moment. Here's something interesting. We're getting lots of repeat orders for our special offer of a stainless steel slicing knife. Yes, a great many people have sent in a second time. When they received their first one, they were so pleased with it that they sent in for more. Now, I'm not surprised at that because we guarantee this stainless steel slicing knife to be the equal of knives selling at 75 cents to $1.
What's more, it has a blade that is hollow ground, a feature usually found only in knives costing $2 or more.
Yet, we offer the stainless steel slicing knife to you for only 25 cents in coin, with 2 wrappers from either Old Nick or Bit-O-Honey candy bars sent to Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. We can make this offer only by special arrangement with a famous cutlery manufacturer. He is the only one in the country who has this new secret process by which long-lasting stainless steel can be successfully hollow ground. We guarantee that this stainless steel slicing knife would compare favorably with knives costing 75 cents to $1, even without the special process, hollow grinding. But hollow grinding gives this knife longer life, a keener edge, and greater usefulness. So you're really getting extra value, an outstanding bargain buy. Now remember the address, Old Nick, Box 144, New York 8, New York. For each stainless steel slicing knife you want, send us 2 wrappers from either Old Nick or Bit-O-Honey candy bars and 25 cents in coin. This offer must be withdrawn very soon, so be sure of your quick-cut slicing knife. Send your order today.
This is David Harding. In the case you just heard, all the parties pleaded guilty. There was nothing else they could do, having provided the pictorial evidence themselves. They're serving long terms in the federal penitentiary, and I understand Butler is quite a hit as a leading man at Leavenworth.
Tune in next Sunday, same time, same station, for the case of the man with the tattooed eye who successfully buried himself until the counterspies had him fingered by a woman in white. The award-winning Case of the Recruited Nurse on David Harding, Counterspy. Tonight's David Harding Counterspy case was directed by William M. Sweets and dramatized by Palmer Thompson, with music by Jesse Crawford and featured Don MacLaughlin and Mandel Kramer. David Harding Counterspy is a Phillips H. Lord production, originating in New York for the makers of Old Nick and Bit-O-Honey candy bars. Now a listening reminder. Nobody knows for certain what is going to happen, but Drew Pearson makes astounding predictions of news events to come. Hear Pearson tonight. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
And don't even bother writing for the knife because they... Not only are the knives no longer available, but neither is Old Nick. I found a wrapper not personally, but I found a photo of a rapper, and it's posted up on our Facebook pages. If you haven't followed us on Facebook, go to classicradio.stream and click on our social media links there so you can follow us. From 76 years ago, Sunday, May 30th, 1948, 5:30 Eastern Time over ABC, Counterspy here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll have a couple of mutual shows coming up in a moment, but first, the news of that date, 76 years ago.
The word research has become pretty familiar to all of us in the last 10 years or so, but have you ever stopped to think what research, especially medical research, means to you personally? Without research, we would have no penicillin or any of the other wonder drugs. Research is also the most important weapon in the fight against mental illness. And mental illness today afflicts more than 9 million people. Already, research has opened up leads for preventing many mental illnesses, and research has shown us speedier and more effective ways of helping mentally sick people to get well. Research scientists say we can be hopeful, but they need help from us. They need money to carry on research. If we help science, science can give us a much better chance to escape mental illness and to cure mental illness if it should strike. If you'd like to help, give to the Mental Health Fund in care of your local postmaster. Just address Mental Health Fund in care of your local postmaster. Don't wait. This worthwhile cause needs your support now.
Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Our featured date is Sunday, May 30th, 1948. In the newspapers of that Sunday 76 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The United Nations Security Council last night called on Arabs and Jews to agree to a 4-week ceasefire for Palestine, during which a universal arms embargo would be clamped on the Middle East. The British-sponsored plan, approved after the Council overrode an American-supported Russian plan to order Arabs and Jews to stop fighting or risk possible severe United Nations punishment. The Council asked the warring antagonists to accept the proposal for a 4-week ceasefire and arms embargo by 7 p.m. Tuesday. Meanwhile, Arab armies closing in from 3 directions began to forge a crescent of steel around Tel Aviv last night. North of the Jewish capital, Iraq claimed its advanced columns had speared 7 miles into Israeli territory, a breakthrough which carried them within 1 mile of the vital coastal highway linking Tel Aviv and Haifa. Henry A. Wallace denounced the Munt-Nixon anti-communist bill yesterday as the most subversive legislation ever to be seriously sponsored in Congress. We won't have peace with Russia if we approach Russia with the atom bomb in one hand and the Munt bill in the other, that according to the third-party presidential candidate. Wallace and Norman Thomas, who is the socialist candidate for president, were the day's star witnesses before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Pacific Northwest floodwaters edged higher under the impact of warm rains that melted mountaintop snows and sent them plunging into swollen rivers of the Columbia system, where $30 million damage was counted and 20,000 persons made homeless. Miradagio was no ordinary human. Swords, knives, and daggers thrust into his body and emerged on the other side. He claimed he was invulnerable. He could make his heart stop and go on living. Today, Darrow is dead. He died by the sword that made him famous. The end came as mysteriously as his own career. He went into one of his usual trances Thursday. He called it going out of his body, and the trances usually lasted 24 hours. He claimed in these trances he could still his heartbeat. Friends called physicians Friday when he did not regain consciousness, and after 12 hours, the doctors, who were baffled by Daggio's ability to survive the sword, pronounced him dead. Oregon Democrats said yesterday they were planning action to force Governor Thomas E. Dewey of New York and Harold E. Stassen to file expense statements for their Oregon campaigns. Dewey, who won in the recent primary vote for Oregon's Republican presidential preference, has been accused by Stassen of spending $250,000 in the state campaign. Dewey retorted his expenses were only a fraction of that sum. 15-year-old Manheim, Pennsylvania high school student exempted yesterday from final exams drowned on a holiday swimming trip. The 15-year-old boy of nearby East Petersburg, Pennsylvania. One of 8 Mannheim students whose high marks from the term exempted examinations from the test. With other boys, he decided to go swimming in Chickies Creek. Constable Emmon Boyer said the Domback boy dove into the creek, failed to swim to the surface. And those some of the day's news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, May 30th, 1948. When Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues in just a moment, we'll move from ABC to Mutual, and we'll hear the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Learn more now, earn more later. That's a motto CBS Radio wishes every college student would paste inside his or her wallet. A lot of those collegiate wallets are a good deal fatter than usual these days, thanks to summertime jobs. And as a result, quite a few young men and women are finding themselves tempted to forget about school this fall and keep on with that job. This isn't such a smart idea as it may seem. It's a plain and simple fact that dropouts from college are less likely to find and keep better-paying jobs. Quit school before you've finished, and you're not only cutting down on your chances for a really good job, you're also throwing away thousands of dollars of possible future income. Finish college, get all the education possible, and your lifetime income is many thousands of dollars higher. America needs well-educated young men and women, and the rewards are sure. So if you're wavering now that school's about to open, don't decide against your future. Go back. And remember, learn more now, earn more later.
And now on Classic Radio Theater, we move from ABC earlier, CBS just then. We move to Mutual, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring John Stanley and Alfred Shirley, from Sunday, 76 years ago, May 30th, 1948.
From New York City, the makers of Clipper Craft Clothes for Men and 1,036 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. This week's adventure, A Case of Identity. Well, here we are, as usual, about to pay our weekly respects to our favorite raconteur, the good Dr. Watson. What about tonight's story, Doctor?
Tonight I have prepared a little challenge for you and our radio friends. Yes, the story I'm going to tell is one of Holmes' more mental adventures. It has its bizarre moments, of course, but still, all in all, its solution is fairly obvious. As you know, Holmes was the world's greatest master of the science of deduction. As a matter of fact, he unraveled this particular problem without moving from his armchair. I wonder how many of our listeners have learned enough of Holmes' methods to do the same.
Well, I think I can make a fair stab at it, Doctor, if the clues aren't too involved, that is.
Oh, no. All the clues are right out in plain sight, Mr. Harris. All you have to do is listen for them and make your own deductions. Oh, but before we become too involved with hidden clues, hadn't we better discuss a few clues to the secret of good grooming without straining the pocketbook?
Good idea, Doctor. If you need a fine new suit for business or a good-looking sport jacket for weekend wear and really want your dollars to do double duty, here's how. Insist on Clipper Craft Clothes. Famous for stretching your dollars, for giving you positively amazing value, is the fine local independent store in your community that sells Clipper Craft. Despite rising costs of materials and manufacturing, you can still buy long-wearing, beautifully tailored Clipper Craft suits for only $40 to $47.50. Luxurious tropical worsteds for only $33.75 to $40, and smart sport jackets for only $26.50. It's the Clipper Craft plan and the Clipper Craft plan alone that makes Clipper Craft clothes possible at these low prices. Concentrating the buying power of 136 of the nation's finest stores from coast to coast, providing steady year-round operation, reducing manufacturing and distribution costs. And the savings go to you. Simply compare Clipper Craft with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now, Dr. Watson, back to the adventure you think we should be able to solve for ourselves.
Right, Mr. Harris. It was during the middle years of our joint occupancy of the lodgings in Baker Street. Holmes and I sat relaxed in two easy chairs on either side of the living room fire. Holmes' long legs stretched out in front of him, his head wreathed in the smoke from his favorite pipe, a horrible black, greasy old clay affair that he coddled as if it were a child. Well, we had just finished an excellent breakfast, and Holmes was in the philosophic mood that so often accompanies the process of digestion.
Strange thing, life, eh, Watson? Infinitely stranger than anything the mind of man could invent.
Yes, I know that's one of your pet theories, and I dare you to put it to the test. Now, take today's paper. If you can find anything bizarre in that, I'll buy you a new smoking jacket.
I don't want a new smoking jacket, Watson, but I'll take up your challenge. Choose any article, any paragraph at all on this page, and I'll guarantee to find something outlandish.
Very well. Here. Take the very first heading. Husband's cruelty to his wife. Now, there's a half column of print about that, but I know what it's about almost without reading it. There's the other woman, the drink, the push, the blow. No writer could invent anything more crude or commonplace.
Your example, Watson, happens to be rather unfortunate. The husband was a teetotaler. There was no other woman, and the cruelty complained of was that he had the habit of winding up every meal by taking out his false teeth and hurling them at his wife, which you'll allow is an action any literary man would hardly be able to make believable.
Well, maybe so, but that's just an exception.
Life is made up of exceptions, Watson. There's one now, standing on the pavement on the opposite side of the street.
Well, you mean that large, Hebe-like young woman with the enormous boa around her neck and the curling red feather in her hat?
Yes.
Well, look how she oscillates backward and forward, and the way she fidgets with her glove buttons.
Oscillation on the pavement always means an affaire de coeur. She would like advice, but it's not sure that the matter may not be too delicate for communication.
She's decided to take the plunge. Here she comes across the road like a swimmer leaving the bank. I say perhaps she's been seriously wronged.
No, Watson. In that case, the woman no longer oscillates. She pulls out the bell wire to the front door. You hear that, Watson? Decidedly fluttery. The maiden is not so much angry as perplexed and possibly grieved. Oh, but here she comes. Come in, come in.
I hope I'm not intruding. This is Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the detective.
Yes? Won't you sit down? This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson.
Pleased to meet you.
Delighted.
My dear young lady, don't you find that with your short sight it's a little trying to do so much typewriting?
Oh, I did at first, and that's a fact. But I've got so now I know where the letters are without Oh, but how did you know? Someone's told you about me.
Oh, don't look so alarmed, my dear. That's just a bit of detection. Mr. Holmes can tell things like that by looking at you. It's his way of showing off.
Oh, I see, but it did take me aback, your knowing things like that.
It's my business to know things. I knew you used the typewriter from the appearance of your fingertips and the double line pressed into the plush above your wrists. It was equally obvious that you're nearsighted from the marks left on either side of the nose by your pince-nez. So you see, my dear Miss...
My name's Sutherland, Mary Sutherland.
So you see, my dear Miss Sutherland, there's nothing terrifying in my conclusions.
Well, no, not when you explain it like that.
And now, perhaps you'll tell me why you came away to consult me in such a hurry that you managed to put on 2 odd shoes.
Why, bless my soul, so I did. The right one's my Sunday pair.
Yes, you must have been rather agitated when you left home.
Yes, I did bang out of the house, and who wouldn't? It made me fair angry to see the easy way Mr. Windybanks, oh, that's my father, took it all. He wouldn't go to the police. He just sat there and said there was no harm done and everything would come right in the end. So finally I got mad and told Father I was coming to you myself.
You say your father, but surely you mean your stepfather, since the name's not the same.
Yes, he's my stepfather. Mother makes me call him Father, though it sounds kind of funny, him being only 5 years and 2 months older than myself.
I see. How recently did your mother marry this Mr. Windybanks?
Oh, about 2 years ago it was, Mr. Holmes. And I'll admit I wasn't very pleased, seeing as it was so soon after Father's death. And him a man nearly 15 years younger than herself.
Enough to start complications in any home. Eh, Holmes?
Quite. But please continue, Miss Sutherland. I gather your father left your mother fairly well off.
Yes, sir, he did. You see, Father was a plumber in Tottenham Court Road, and he left a tidy business behind him. After he went, Mother carried it on. Although I must say that William, that is, Mr. Hardy, Father's foreman, did most of the work. And a good thing he made of it, too.
This Mr. Hardy, was he your father's age?
Oh, no, sir. He was just 2 years older than me. The fact is, we had a sort of an understanding till this here Mr. Windybanks came along.
Oh, and he didn't approve of Mr. Hardy?
Oh, it weren't that so much as that he didn't approve of the plumbing business. Said it wasn't high class.
Oh.
Mr. Windybanks is a very superior gentleman himself, Mr. Holmes. Travels in wines for Westhouse and Marbank, the claret importers in 10 Church Street. Oh, a real toff he is.
I see.
Yes, sir. So after him and Mother got married, he made us sell the business. They got £4,700 for the goodwill and the interest. But Mr. Hardy said it was practically giving it away. And so him and my stepfather had an argument. And my stepfather told Will to clear out and never darken his door again.
Quite theatrical.
Yes, my stepfather's like that. Well, Will says he's off to Birmingham. And will I come with him? And I says, well, I can't hardly be expected to leave me own mother. So then he gets mad and biffs off.
Without giving you a chance to change your mind?
Well, yes.
And how is he doing in Birmingham?
Very nicely, I hear. Got his own shop and all. Oh, not that I write to him. I wouldn't send him a word if I was dying, I wouldn't.
Of course. Serves him right for not being more persuasive.
Yes, sir. Oh, but that's neither here nor there, Mr. Holmes. The fact is, I don't know why I even mentioned Will Hardy. Except that I'm so upset in my mind, my tongue kind of wags on by itself. Let's see, where was I?
Your mother had just sold the plumbing business for something over $4,000. You inherited part of that, I presume?
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes. I've got my own money, outside of the plumbing business, that is.
Oh?
It was left to me by my Uncle Ned in Auckland. It's in New Zealand stock, paying me 4%. Gives me £100 a year, it does.
Then the capital amounts to around £2,500.
Yes, sir, but I can't touch that. Just the income.
Quite a tidy little amount. I believe a single lady can do very nicely on £60 a year.
Oh, I could do on even less than that, Mr. Holmes. I'm a good one at managing things. But so long as I live at home, I don't want to be a burden to them, so I let them have the use of it while I'm staying there.
You mean you give the money to Mr. Windybanks?
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes. I draws it out every quarter and pays it over to my mother.
That's very generous of you, Miss Sutherland.
Oh, it's no hardship. I do pretty well with what I earn at typewriting. Makes me quite self-supporting, as you might say.
Yes, these independent, modern young women. Soon they'll be competing with men in business.
Oh, no, sir. I'm sure I wouldn't presume to be as bold as that.
Well, to resume, we find you are a young lady very comfortably fixed.
Well, I'm not exactly rich, Mr. Holmes, but I'd give all I have to know what's become of Mr. Hosmer Angel.
Hosmer Angel, eh? Quite a romantic name.
Oh, yes. And he was romantic, Mr. Holmes. Recited Browning, he did.
Sounds quite devoted.
Oh, yes, sir, he was. I could swear he was. And now he's gone, too. Disappeared like into thin air. And naturally, I'm anxious about him, being as it's the second time I've been left in the lurch, as you might say. I feel a bit sensitive about it.
Of course. Had you quarreled?
Oh, no, sir. We was as affectionate as two cooing doves. Mother said it used to make her quite sick to watch us. Oh, not that she wasn't all for Hosmer. That she was. Helped me to keep it from father and all.
Oh, then your father didn't know about this new admirer?
No, sir. That is, not until later. And then he never really saw him.
And how did you first meet this Mr. Hosmer Angel?
Well, Mr. Holmes, I met him at the gasfitter's ball.
How romantic.
Oh, yes, sir, it was. The gasfitters used to send father tickets while he was alive, and afterwards they kept on sending them to me and mother. Mr. Windybanks didn't wish us to go. He never did wish us to go anywhere. If I so much as wanted to go to a Sunday school treat, he would get quite mad about it.
Rather unreasonable.
Yes, sir. Well, it happened that the week of the ball, he had to go to France on business, so he wasn't there to make a scene when Mother and me went. It was a lovely ball, Mr. Holmes. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. It was there I met Hosmer. He was a lovely dancer. You should have seen him do the polka.
Swept you quite off your feet, I've no doubt.
Yes, sir. Well, he called next day to see if Mother and I had got home safe the night before. And after that, I went out once or twice for walks with him, and things was going along as smooth as you could wish. And then Father came home, and Hosmer couldn't come to the house anymore.
No?
No, sir. Father didn't like me to have young men come to the house. Said it didn't look well for a young girl to have followers.
Rather a tyrant, eh?
Oh, yes, sir. But pretty soon he had to go off to France again for a couple of weeks, so I started walking out with Hosmer again.
And this Hosmer made no attempts to see you in the meantime?
No, sir. I wanted to, but Mother said she didn't think it was safe. Oh, he wrote to me every day, Hosmer did. Oh, here, I brought the letters. I thought they might give you a clue.
Quite right. We'll look them over later. Am I to take it that you and Mr. Angel had an understanding?
Yes, sir. We were engaged after the first walk we took together.
The first worker, eh, Holmes? Watson, don't interrupt. What was Mr. Angel's business, Miss Sutherland?
He was a cashier in an office in Leadenhall Street.
What office?
Oh, that's the worst of it, Mr. Holmes. I don't know.
Where did he live, then?
Oh, he slept on the premises.
And you don't know his address?
No, sir, except that it was Leadenhall Street.
Where did you address your letters?
Leadenhall Street Post Office, to be left till called for. He said if they was to come to the office, he'd be ragged by the other clerks. I offered to typewrite them like he did his, but he wouldn't have that. Said that when I wrote them myself, it seemed like there was something of me in them. That'll show you how fond he was of me, Mr. Holmes. He was always thinking of little things like that.
Yes, quite suggestive. Can you remember any other little things about Mr. Hosmer Angel? Any little peculiarities?
He was a very shy man, Mr. Holmes. He'd rather walk with me in the evening than in the daylight, because he said he liked to hold my hand, but he didn't want to be conspicuous.
Very considerate and gentlemanly.
Oh, yes, sir, he was a thorough gentleman, with the silkiest brown beard. Even his voice was soft-like. He told me he'd had quinsy and swollen glands when he was young, and it left him with a weak throat.
How unfortunate.
Yes, sir. His eyes were kind of weak, too, like mine, and he wore tinted glasses against the glare. I'd say he was about 5'5" and had small hands and feet.
I see. And what happened when Mr. Windybanks, your stepfather, returned to France?
Well, I wrote Hosmer, and he came round to the house, and he said I'd have to marry him before Father came back, as he couldn't stand the separation any longer. So I asked Mother, and she said, why not? Every girl was entitled to her own husband. Oh, Mother was all for Hosmer from the beginning, almost more than I was myself.
So you got married?
Well, no. Well, that is... not quite.
Oh, what happened?
Well, the wedding was set for yesterday morning. We thought it best to make it a quiet ceremony. It was to be at St. Saviour's Church, with a wedding breakfast afterwards at the St. Pancras Hotel. Well, about 9 o'clock, Mother and me was all dressed and waiting for Hosmer. I was a bit upset, I guess. You know how a bride feels, Mr. Holmes. Oh, dear, I'm that nervous, I don't know whether I ought to get married or not.
Don't you fret, Mary. All brides is like that. Why, when I was married to your father, I was so jumpy I split both me gloves.
Oh, I know, but I hadn't known Hosmer very long, Mother. Maybe I oughtn't to jump off the deep end like this.
What's the good of waiting, Mary? Better get married now before your father gets back.
Yes, I suppose so. Oh, dear me, I wish my shoes wasn't so tight.
Shh, here comes Hosmer now. Don't he look handsome with that flower in his buttonhole and all? No, you stay here, Mary. I'll answer it. A bride should act shy-like on her wedding day. Good morning, Hosmer. How's the groom?
Good morning, Mother. Oh, I'm fine. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Hosmer. What's the matter? You look kind of white.
Oh, I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right, too, Hosmer.
Well, we'd better be shoving off. I got a hansom waiting outside.
Oh, but Hosmer, it's such a little way, and hansoms is expensive.
Oh, you don't think that any bride of mine is going to walk on her wedding day?
Now, who can that be? Hosmer, you're as full of jumps as a kangaroo. Now I'll go. What is it? Telegram. Oh, thank you. It's a telegram.
Maybe somebody's died.
I'm almost afraid to look.
But here, let me. I'm used to these things. Expect me home today. Erasmus G. Windybanks.
Father's coming home. What if he gets here before...
Now, don't lose your nerve. You're of age, remember, so it don't matter how he raves afterwards.
Oh, Mary, promise you won't let him tear us apart.
No.
Swear it, Mary. Now, where's the Bible?
Mary's carrying mine, the one I got married with. Both times.
All right. Now, put your left hand on that Bible and swear that whatever happens, you will always be true to me, and to me only.
But what could happen?
Oh, you never know. Now, swear it, Mary, for my sake. Swear it.
Yes, Mary. Why not do as Ozma asks?
All right, I swear.
Oh, good. Now then, let's get on with it.
Yes, Ozma. Oh, dear. Is my bonnet on straight?
Yes, only hurry. Mr. Windybanks may get back any minute.
Mary, don't forget your flowers.
No, Mother.
Well, hurry. Now, here's the cab. You first, Mother. Now, easy, don't upset the cab. Now, Mary. That's right.
Aren't you coming too, Ozma?
No, there isn't room. I'd muss your dress. I'll hail another cab. Oh, yes, there's a four-wheeler now. Hey, cabby! Now, you go on. I'll follow after.
See you at the church, Ozma. St. Saviour's driver. Yes, Ozma got the other cab. It's foreigners.
Oh, my knees are knocking together like anything.
Now, hush up, Mary. Anyone would think you didn't want to get married.
Well, maybe I do, and maybe I don't.
Well, just hold your breath and it'll be over in no time now. Here's the church. You get out first and mind your dress. That's it. Now help me. Here, not so fast. I'm no blinking acrobat. That's it. Here, cabby.
Oh, here comes Ozma's four-wheeler now.
St. Saviour's like you asked for.
Why doesn't he get out?
Give him time. Maybe his knees is shaky, too.
Come on, sir. What ails the man?
Mother, something's wrong with Ozma.
Oh, stuff.
I'm going to see.
Wake up there.
I'll speak to him, cabby. What? The cab's empty.
What?
Something's happened to Ozma. He's gone and left me waiting at the church.
Every day is value day when you insist on clothes by Clippercraft. Yes, we have to know our values are really great when we suggest you compare Clippercraft with clothes selling for very much more, which is exactly what we do suggest. Because there's a great big idea behind Clippercraft clothes in the form of the famous Clippercraft plan. You get the benefit of great savings made by concentrating the buying power of 1,036 of the nation's finest stores from coast to coast. Yes, the Clippercraft plan really streamlines the fine old craft of clothes making. When you can get such remarkably fine quality in suits for only $40 to $47.50, in tropical worsteds for only $33.75 to $40, and in sport jackets for only $26.50, why pay more? For selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suits, top coats, sport jackets, and tropicals. In Manhattan, Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th. John Wanamaker Men's Stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
And now back to Baker Street, where we find Dr. Watson commiserating with the young lady who has been left waiting at the church.
A shameful way for any gentleman to act, deserting his bride at the altar.
Oh, no, Dr. Watson, I'm sure he didn't do that. Not on purpose, that is. He was too kind for that. And then there's that pledge I gave him.
Oh, you think he foresaw some unforeseen danger, and that's why he made you take the oath?
Yes, sir.
Have you any notion what it could have been?
No, sir.
How did your father take it? I presume he found out.
Oh, yes, sir. He was quite consoling, really.
Remarkable.
Oh, it drives me half mad to think of it, Mr. Holmes. It's not as if it was the first time I'd been disappointed.
I understand. I shall be delighted to glance into the matter for you, Miss Sutherland. Now, let me advise you to turn the whole matter over to me, and don't let your mind dwell on it any further. Above all, try to let Mr. Hosmer Angel vanish from your memory, as he's done from your life.
Then you don't think I'll ever see him again?
I'm afraid not.
Oh, dearie me. You've been very kind, Mr. Holmes, I'm sure. I don't know how to thank you.
Not at all, Miss Sutherland.
Well, good day, gentlemen. Oh, Where's my hanky? Oh, here it is. Oh, dearie me. Another romance blighted.
Holmes, what a horrid mess of bottles and test tubes. That smells of hydrochloric acid.
Marvelous, my dear Watson, marvelous.
I don't believe you've buzzed out of this room since that poor young lady left early this morning.
No, it wasn't necessary.
Then you've solved it?
Certainly. It was bisulfate of baryton.
No, I mean the mystery of the disappearing bridegroom.
Oh, that. There never was any mystery in that affair, Watson. Pretty self-evident, don't you think?
Oh, no, can't say I do.
Oh, really? But I let you look at Mr. Hosmer's love letters.
But they were typewritten, even to the signature.
Yes, that's what's really suggestive.
Now, what's that?
Mr. Windybanks, I fancy.
Well, you mean the girl's father, stepfather?
Quite. I sent off a note to him this morning to his place of business.
But I must say, Holmes...
And this afternoon I received this businesslike reply on West House and Marbank stationery saying he'd be here at 6 o'clock. Come in, come in. Ah, Mr. Windybanks?
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
This typewritten note was from you on which you set the time for this appointment at 6 o'clock?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I'm afraid I'm a trifle late. It's about Miss Sutherland's missing suitor, eh?
Quite.
I'm sorry she's troubled you, Mr. Holmes. But you know what young girls are. Besides, it's a useless expense. Because how in the name of this and that can you expect to locate Hosmer Angel?
Pardon me if I disagree with you, Mr. Windybanks, but I have every reason to believe that I have located Mr. Hosmer Angel.
Delighted, Mr. Holmes, delighted.
Yes. I wonder if anyone's ever told you that a typewriter has really quite as much individuality as a man's handwriting.
You don't say.
Oh, but I most emphatically do. Every typewriter develops its own little idiosyncrasies. Now, this note of yours, Mr. Windybanks, you'll notice that all the E's are slightly slurred, and there's a slight defect in the tail of the R.
Yes, I never noticed it before.
Obviously. Now, I have here 4 letters which purport to come from the missing man. In all of them, the E's are slurred and the R's tailless.
Well, I didn't come here to waste time with fantastic talk like this. If you're going to catch the man, catch him. And let me know when you succeed.
Certainly. Watson, be good enough to lock the door.
With pleasure.
Now then, Mr. Windybanks, I have caught Mr. Hosmer Angel, because you yourself are that gentleman.
But Well, what if I am? I didn't marry the girl, did I? It's not actionable.
No, your conduct is even worse than that. It's dishonorable and degrading. In the first place, you're the sort of scoundrel who marries an older woman for her money. Not satisfied, you want to assure yourself of the daughter's income, which you'll lose if she marries. You make her break off with her first sweetheart. And when you see it's going to be impossible to keep others from falling in love with her, you arrange to do so yourself.
Well, it was only a joke at first.
I failed to see any humor in it.
Well, I didn't know she'd fall for me like that, did I?
You made the girl swear she'd be true and wait for you. And then you played the cad and disappeared.
Well, maybe so, and maybe not. But I'm not breaking any laws. And as long as you keep that door locked...
Quite so. Should you care to call a policeman? There's one in the street below. I'm sure your employer, Mr. Merrill Marbanks, who, by the way, is an old friend of mine, will be very interested in your little joke.
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes. You couldn't tell him. I'd lose my job and my social standing.
Quite so. I'll keep quiet on one condition.
Oh, yes, sir. Anything at all.
You are not to discourage any more of Miss Mary's suitors, past, present, or future.
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes, I wouldn't think of it. It was all just a little game, you see.
Yes. Well, the game's over. Watson, you may show the gentleman out.
Right. Now then.
Yes, sir. Well, good day, gentlemen. I hope you won't hold any hard feelings, Mr. Holmes. And if you ever...
Come along, no loitering, or I'll boot you downstairs. I'm a good man to do it anyway.
I'm going.
The filthy blackguard. I say, but I still don't see how you spotted the man.
That typewritten letter, Watson, particularly the signature. Obviously, the man wanted to disguise his handwriting, which would have been familiar to the girl. Well, whose handwriting would have been familiar to her? Answer, the father's, as he was the only man she was allowed to come in contact with.
Well, it's really quite simple when you explain it. Oh, by the way, are you going to tell the girl?
I? No, heaven forbid. I shall let Mr. Will Hardy of Birmingham have that privilege. I wrote him the facts of the case this morning. No, he'll be able to persuade her to believe it. I never could.
Holmes, you're a moral coward.
Perhaps, Watson. You remember the old Persian saying, "There's danger for him who taketh the cub of the tiger, and danger also for whoso snatches a delusion from a woman.
Now then, Mr. Harris, did you guess the solution?
Well, when Holmes began to talk about typewriters, I started to have an inkling, Doctor, but before that, I'll admit I was pretty much at sea.
Why, Mr. Harris, I'm surprised, and after all my teaching.
Well, how about giving us a hint about next week's story, Dr. Watson?
Yes, Mr. Harris. Next week, I think I'll tell you about a particularly complicated case of violent and untimely death that Holmes and I ran across on what started out to be an uneventful excursion up the Thames. I call it the complicated poisoning on Eel Pie Island.
The makers of Clipper Craft Clothes and 1,036 leading stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Lochran, with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in The Complicated Poisoning on Eel Pie Island. This is Cy Harris speaking for Clippercraft Clothes. This is the network for the Indianapolis Speedway races on Monday, the Mutual Broadcasting System.
From 76 years ago, May 30th, 1948, John Stanley as Alfred and Alfred Shirley as Holmes and Watson in the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Basil Rathbone decided he didn't want to be typecast, so he moved on to other roles, and Nigel Bruce followed him shortly thereafter. This episode, as I said, from 1948, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Mutual. Tomorrow, we'll have This Is Your FBI, Suspense, Let George Do It, Dragnet, and Claudia. But right now we're going to wrap up our look at that Sunday, May 30th, 1948, 76 years ago, by moving up a half hour to 6:30 Eastern Time, an episode of Nick Carter, Master Detective, starring Lon Clark.
Needs the comfort and inspiration of religious faith, for it is faith which helps hold our families together, builds moral and spiritual character. And today, perhaps more than ever before, there's a need to turn to a way of life based on the enduring principles of religion. There are a great many programs of religious nature on NBC Radio, which you'll enjoy hearing this Sunday. Among them, The Art of Living, the National Radio Pulpit, Eternal Light, the Lutheran Hour, the Catholic Hour, and the Hour of Decision conducted by Billy Graham. These are but a few of the broadcasts that will bring you inspiration and comfort not only this Sunday, but on the Sundays to come. Of course, the Easter message will be the highlight event this week. We know you'll enjoy hearing them as a supplement to your visit to the church of your choice. And when you do go to church this Sunday, take the whole family with you.
Nick Carter has his roots in the 19th century, believe it or not. He first appeared in the New York Weekly newspaper in a 13-week serial, The Old Detective's Pupil, and he would be in a number of novels through Street and Smith, and a number of characters along the way. He had his own magazine, Nick Carter Weekly, the stories that were serialized, also reprinted in standalone titles, and by 1915, the Nick Carter Weekly ceased publication. Street and Smith replaced it with Detective Story Magazine. But it went on into the 30s. They revived Nick Carter in a pulp magazine, Nick Carter Detective Magazine, and he became a detective, Nick Carter, Master Detective, that ran over Mutual from 1943 to 1955. Of the Nick Carters in radio, Lon Clark really basically was it. And then, by the way, there was a serial that they spun off of this, Chick Carter Boy Detective, played by Bill Lipton and Leon Janney, believe it, of all people. And that ran for 2 years, from 1943 to 1945. All righty, let's get to this episode from 6:30 Eastern Time over Mutual. Lon Clark, starring in the case of the Littlest Gangster, Nick Carter, Master Detective.
New post-war Old Dutch cleanser, famous for chasing dirt, presents Nick Carter, famous for chasing crime. Every week at this time, two great names are joined as new post-war Old Dutch cleanser brings you one of the most resourceful and daring characters in all detective fiction, Nick Carter, Master Detective.
But, Nick, there's no way of telling which boy did it. They were all shooting at once.
That's the point, Patsy. They were all in on it. And legally, they're all guilty.
Oh, no, Nick, not Bubs. Maybe the others, but...
Patsy, I'm afraid the law won't make any distinction in his case.
You mean that if one of the others fired that shot and Bubs didn't even know it, he's guilty?
Yes. Technically, he's guilty of murder at the age of 12.
Now, the case of the Littlest Gangster. Today's adventure starring Lon Clark as Nick Carter. Brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch cleanser. A flashy cream-colored convertible is parked along a dark street in the poorer section of the city, with two small figures crouched in the front seat, talking in whispers.
Bubs, will you quit chewing that bubble gum in my ear and hand me that piece of wire?
Okay, Tim, but do you think we ought to?
I will be driving this hack away in a minute. You seen me wire past the ignition in a car before this.
Yeah, but only so we could go for a ride. We never stole one before.
We gotta start sometime.
But supposing they can't...
Okay, punk, come out of there.
I wasn't doing nothing, mister.
Trying to ice my car, huh? Why, I oughta...
Oh, you leave him go. Turn him loose, you
Who do you think you're kicking, you little squirt?
Oh, Graham Bubs.
I'll learn you to fool with Moxie Reed.
Gee, you ain't Moxie Reed.
Ah, so you heard of me, huh?
You let him go.
Quit kicking at him, Bubs. This is Moxie Reed. He's big-time stuff.
Yeah, I guess you do know about me.
Honest, Moxie, we'd have never touched this crate if we'd have known it was yours.
Okay. So don't let it happen again.
You ain't calling the cops?
Me and the cops ain't very friendly. But you two better grow up before you try lifting another car.
But, Moxie, we gotta pull something big.
Yeah, how come?
Well, we got a gang, see? The East Side Scorpions. And we made a club room in an old empty house on Porter Street.
And the place caught on fire from a cigarette or something, and it burned.
It's just an old dump. But old lady Taltman, the lady across the street, she owns the joint, see? And she says if we don't pay $200 for the damage, she's going to have us all put in reform school.
How'd she know it was your gang that started the fire?
Oh, old Mr. Riley seen us coming out of the joint. He lives across the street, too, right next door to her, and he squealed on us.
Who'd you say squealed?
Old man Riley. He used to be a cop till he got too old.
That's so.
Yeah. Now all he does is sit out on his front steps every night and spy on people.
So you're gonna let a dame shake you down for 2 centuries, eh?
There ain't no way to stop her, Moxie. That's why we figured on swiping a car, to get the dough.
If it was my gang, I'd throw a scare into her so she wouldn't dare go to the cops.
What would you do, Moxie?
I'd get me a rod, that's what. I'd make sure the other guys in my gang had them, too.
A gun?
Scares you, huh?
Nah, don't scare us. We've been wanting a heater for a long time. Ain't we, Bubs?
Yeah. Sure, Tim.
Look, if you kids really want to know how to handle this old dame, look me up in Mike Reppa's pool room someday. After you get yourself some guns.
The reason I came to see you, Mr. Carter, is that my Bubs isn't really a bad boy. You know that.
course, Mrs. Harris. No boy is naturally bad.
I remember when Bubs used to belong to the Downtown Boys Club. He was about 10 years old then, and the bubblegum champion of the block.
Well, that's why they started calling him Bubs, isn't it?
Uh-huh. He was an awfully cute youngster.
He still is, Miss Bourne. But there isn't any boys' club where we live now, so he's got himself mixed up with this gang.
A gang? He's only about 12, isn't he?
Yeah, but the others are all older. If something doesn't happen, Bubs will turn out to be just as bad as the rest of them.
Oh, maybe you're exaggerating, Mrs. Harris. They surely didn't start that fire on purpose.
Oh, no, but where we lived before, Bubs wouldn't have dreamed of breaking into an empty building. And already they got another place for the gang to meet. Deserted warehouse over by the waterfront somewhere.
Not having any place where they're allowed to meet and to play that starts a lot of boys breaking the law.
Oh, it's that Tim Newton that's the worst. Bub thinks he's got to be just as tough as Tim is. And that boy's bad all the way through.
How old is Tim?
Oh, 15.
He can't be a confirmed criminal at that age.
Yeah, he almost is. And now Bubs is another hero he keeps talking about. A gangster named Moxie Reed.
Moxie Reed? That is bad.
What am I going to do, Mr. Carter? If somebody don't raise $200 to pay for the damage to that house, Mrs. Tubman's going to have them all arrested.
I'll talk to her, Mrs. Harris. And don't you worry. We'll get Bob straightened out. Only glad you came to me before he got into any real trouble.
How's that for a break, Mike? You're so uptight.
Oh, yeah? Well, watch me put that one ball in the corner pocket.
Hey, Moxie.
Hiya, Tim. Hiya, Bubs. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mr. Reed. Hey, we got them guns you told
Easy,
us.
kids. We use the back room, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
This way, kids. You guys work fast, I'll say that.
We had to. Old Lady Tellman only gave us a week to raise the dough.
One inside. Sit down.
Moxie, you said you'd tell us what to do next.
I was just kidding. Forget it.
But you promised.
So what? Maybe you'd louse up the deal and squawk to the cops that I told you what to do.
We ain't no squealers.
No. We didn't even tell the rest of the gang. They all think it's Tim's idea.
We got the guns, 6 of them.
Yeah. We busted into a shooting gallery after they closed up last night.
What are they, 22 rifles?
Yeah, and we only done it because you said you'd tell us what to do next.
Well, if it was me...
Yeah?
I'd pick me up a car along about 8 o'clock tonight and drive by that old dame's house with a few of my gang.
And shoot her?
No. But I'd throw enough lead through her front window so she'd be scared to ever open her trap about me again.
Sure, I get it.
But, Tim, what if she gets hurt?
Quit beefing, will you? Nobody's gonna get hurt.
But maybe she
We'll
will.
do it, Moxie. Just like you said. And we'll do it tonight.
Mrs. Tellman, if you'll give the boys enough time to earn the money to pay for the damage to your building, I'll personally guarantee that you get every cent.
And if you had them sent away to reform school, you won't be able to collect anything.
It is not the money only, Mr. Carter. But someone has got to do something to break up these kid gangs. They're terrible.
I'm trying to do something. Think I can get a boys' club started in this neighborhood? And then we'll be able to...
Believe me, it will do no good, Mr. Carter. These kids is mean. They smash windows. They steal automobiles.
Mrs. Tellman, please, hold off a few weeks before having them arrested. It's the only way you can be sure of getting your money.
Yes, Mrs. Tellman. Please do that.
Well, all right. But if they step out of line just one more time, I send every last one of those kids to the reform school.
Now wait till I twist these wires together, and we'll see if she starts.
Tim, maybe if we went to Old Lady Tillman and...
Shut up. I'm gonna try it now. She works.
Where are we going to pick up the other guys?
At the warehouse.
Are there guns there, too?
Yeah, and enough bullets to give Old Lady Tellman the scare of her life.
Good night, Mrs. Tellman.
Good night, Mr. Carter. Good night, Mrs. Boyd.
Good night.
Oh, how are you tonight, Miss Riley?
Oh, fine, thanks. Just getting the breath of air like always.
Well, I think we've put in a good day's work, Nick.
I do, too, but I still want to talk to Bubs.
It's almost 8 o'clock. He ought to be home by now.
All right, let's go by there and see.
Nick, look at that car racing up the street. Isn't that Bubs leaning out the front window?
Yeah, that's Bubs, all right. Hey, he's got a rifle. Look out.
Yeah.
Good grief. Come on, Patsy.
Oh, they were shooting at Mrs. Tellman's house.
Mrs. Tellman. Mrs. Tellman. It's Nick Carter. Are you all right? Mrs. Tellman.
I'm coming. Oh, they tried to kill me. Look at my windows. Look at the holes in my front door.
I'm thankful that none of the bullets hit you. I was afraid that maybe... Yes, what's the matter?
If she's all right, you better come down here quick.
Why?
There's a man on the steps next door. He must have been hit by a stray bullet. I think he's dead.
Only a few steps beyond the bullet-riddled front door of Mrs. Tellman's home lies the body of the man who had informed on the juvenile gang, ex-police officer Riley. We'll see what happens in just a minute. Now, back to the case of the Littlest Gangster. Today's adventure with Nick Carter, brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. Nick is examining the body of James Riley, lying dead on the steps of his home, following a hail of bullets intended to frighten his neighbor, Mrs. Tellman.
All right, keep back, everybody, please. The police will be here in a minute.
Poor Mr. Riley is such a nice man. And those murderers, those hoodlums. Did you see them, Mr. Carter? Do you know who it was?
No, I'm afraid it was the boys who set fire to your building, Mrs. Tellman.
Oh.
We recognized one of them just before the shooting.
Those little devils. I said they were no good. They should get the leg chair.
Oh, but Mrs. Tellman.
Murderers. But they could not kill me. They shoot poor Mr. Riley.
Oh, I don't believe they did that on purpose.
I know they did. They was mad at him than they was at me. He's the one told me they started the fire.
That's so? Didn't know that.
Oh, it must have been an accident. They were shooting at the front of your house, and one bullet went astray.
No, Patsy, I don't think it was accidental.
Oh, but
the
Nick...
bullet that killed him struck the center of his forehead and came out just behind the right ear. Riley was sitting at the top of this flight of stairs.
Well, what difference does that make?
The difference between an accident and murder.
Oh, but even if you're right, how can you ever find out which of the boys did it? They were all shooting at once.
That's just the trouble, Patsy. When one of a group commits murder while they're all engaged in a crime, they're all equally guilty.
Oh, no, Nick. You don't mean Bubs. Not that baby.
Oh, thank goodness the cops are gone.
Come on, Patsy. Help me look for that bullet. It's the only chance we have to prove exactly who killed Mr. Riley.
Right in the corner pocket, like I said.
Okay. So now I owe you $4.
Moxie, you gotta help me out, Moxie. The cops seen us and they...
Shut up, you kids. Come on in the back room. Now, what do you mean the cops seen you?
When we was ditching the car, we let the other guys out first. And then just as we was
What'd you do with the guns?
They guessed the cops got them. We left them in the car.
Why, you idiots.
Tim says we gotta run away or they'll get us, sure.
Yeah, but we dassn't make a break for a few days.
If you're hot, what are you coming to me for? I got no place to put you.
We already got a place. We can hide out in our club room at the old warehouse.
You'll take us there in your car, won't you, Moxie? If we go out on the street, they'll get us, sure.
You're gonna run away in a few days, huh?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that ain't a bad idea.
Will you take us to the warehouse, Moxie? Will you?
Okay, kids. I'll do it.
Gee, you're a real pal, Moxie. You're swell.
Any news, Matty?
Yeah, ballistics is making the tests now, Nick.
Well, what test is that, Sergeant?
They're checking the kids' rifles against the bullet that killed Riley to see which one fired that particular shot.
Well, how will that help?
Well, you see, Patsy, every one of the rifles is covered with fingerprints.
Uh-huh.
And when we know which gun killed Riley, we'll know which kid did it.
No sign of Tim and Bubs yet, huh?
No, Nick, but we rounded up the other 4 that was in the car, and we'll have them, too, before long.
I still say it was an accident, a stray bullet.
Look, Patsy, it don't make no difference. They were committing a crime when it happened, so that makes it murder.
Matty, I don't go along with that stray bullet theory. Well, you're probably right, Nick. And if Riley was killed deliberately, I'll bet Tim Newton was the one that did it.
Well, why Tim, Sergeant?
I've been told he was plenty sore at Riley for telling the old lady the boys started that fire in the building of hers across the street.
Well, I'm not surprised at that.
Another reason I think Tim did it is because the other boys all said that shooting up Mrs. Tellman's home was his idea. I wonder if it was, Matty. You think the kids are lying? No. But Bubs' mother said he and Tim had been hanging around Moxie Reed lately. Hey, maybe you got something there, Nick. Moxie's just the kind of a guy to put ideas like that in the kid's mind.
Say, who is this Moxie Reed anyway?
Well, Patsy, a few years ago, he wasn't much different from Tim Newton. But he's developed into a first-class rat, a cheap gangster. Now, wait a minute. I wouldn't say cheap, Nick. He's getting plenty of dough from somewhere, or he wouldn't be able to run around in that big cream-colored convertible he's got. But you can't get anything on him, huh? No, not lately. Huh. You know, about 7 years ago, we tagged him for a stick-up over on the... Hey, that's funny. Well, talk about coincidences.
Well, what's funny, Sergeant?
The guy that hung that rap on Moxie was Riley, the man who was killed.
What?
Yeah, he used to be a cop before he retired. You say Riley was the one who arrested Moxie Reed? Sure, it was his testimony that sent Moxie up. That's what I've been looking for, Matty. Somebody who had reason to hate Riley. Somebody beside the kids. Hey, that's an idea, Nick. Moxie might have got the kids to shoot up Mrs. Tellman's home and got one of them to bump off Riley by telling him it would look like an accident and nobody could ever prove which one did it. Yeah, it could have been that way, Matty, but... Yeah. I think that... Oh, wait a minute. Homicide, Sergeant Matheson speaking. Oh, yeah? Yeah, what did you find out?
Is it the report from ballistics?
Uh-huh. Yeah, go ahead, Malloy. It wasn't. But it had to be. Oh, you sure you didn't make no mistake? I know, but... Okay. Yeah, thanks. What's the matter, Matty? You know what, Nick? None of them 6 guns we found in the kid's car killed Riley. Good. But what do you mean, good? It only proves that one of those kids knew he was going to kill Riley. That's why he took the gun away and hid it so we couldn't identify it. You may change your mind after we talk to Tim and Bubs. What? Well, we ought to pick them up before long. Do you want me to give you a ring when we find them? No, I don't want to sit around and wait. I'm going out to look for them myself. Okay. In the meantime, I suggest you have some of your boys bring in Moxie Reed.
Our club room's right at the top of these stairs, Moxie.
You sure nobody will come looking around in here?
This old warehouse ain't been used for years. They condemned it or something.
Where's the room you kids are going to hide out in?
It's this door. We got a padlock on it, so if anybody ever did come in here, they wouldn't swipe any of our stuff.
You got the key, Tim?
Sure, I got it right here. Moxie, you've been a great guy, and we ain't ever going to forget it.
Yeah. It was just like you belonged to our gang.
Sure. Even coming down there to help us out.
Down where?
To old Lady Tillman's house.
What are you talking about?
And you wasn't even going to tell us. We wouldn't have known what a swell pal you are if Bubs hadn't have looked up and seen you.
It was swell seeing you standing in that window across the street pumping lead into the old lady's front door just like we was.
So you saw me there, did you?
Yeah. We didn't tell the other guys.
That's good. I'll get in that room.
Come on, Bubs.
Tim, I think I changed my mind.
Huh?
If I was to run away, well, it'd just about kill my mom. I'd rather go to the reform school.
Are you nuts? Get inside there.
I can't. I'm going back home.
You're going in that room now.
Hey, what's the idea of hitting a little kid like that?
That goes for you too, stupid. Get in there.
Oh! Moxie, don't lock the door, please. You let us out of here. Open this door.
So long, punks. It's been nice knowing you.
Nick, we've been driving along the waterfront for almost an hour. Isn't it time to give up and go home?
Yeah, I guess so, Patsy. But Bub's mother said the boys had a club room in some deserted warehouse in this district. Seemed the logical place for them to hide out.
Yeah, but it's so dark down here now, you can't even tell which ones are deserted.
I was hoping we'd find them on the street. This is where they came, though. It looks as though they got here first.
We can come back again in the morning.
Hey, Patsy. Look at that car up ahead.
Why, it's a big cream-colored convertible, like the one Sergeant Matheson said Moxie Reed owned.
If I'm not mistaken, that's Moxie getting ready to drive off.
Are you sure?
No, but I'm going to cut in ahead of him and find out.
Hey, what's the big idea?
Stay right where you are, Moxie. Thought I recognized you.
What do you want to do? Give me a medal?
No, just want to have a little talk with you, if you don't mind.
What do you lock us in here for, Tim? I want to go home.
Quit blubbering, will you? Go on, chew your bubble gum.
I lost it someplace.
Okay, so quit crying anyway. I ain't gonna let nothing happen to you. There'll be plenty of people working around this neighborhood in the morning. If we yell loud enough, somebody will come and let us out.
I want to get out now.
Well, you can't. We could yell our lungs out and nobody'd hear us, so shut up.
Tim, do you smell something?
Huh? Hey, I think I do. It smells like smoke.
He did smoke.
Yeah, and it's stronger over here by the door. Holy cow, the building must be on fire.
What are we gonna do? We gotta get out.
We can't. The door's locked.
Help!
Let us out. Somebody. Get us out of here. We'll be burned out.
Hoping against hope that someone will hear them, the two boys pound helplessly against the heavy locked door. We'll see what happens in just a minute. Now for the conclusion of the case of the Littlest Gangster. Today's adventure with Nick Carter, brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. Unaware that Tim and Bubs are locked in a burning warehouse in the deserted waterfront district, Patsy listens as Nick questions Moxie Reed.
I want to know where those two kids are, Reed.
I don't know what kids you're talking about.
Oh, yes, you do. Tim Newton and Bubs Harris.
I ain't seen them in 2 or 3 days.
Hey, just a minute, Moxie. You chew gum?
No, and I don't go for all-day suckers either.
Well, there's a wad of chewing gum stuck to your trousers leg. And from the color, I'd say it was bubble gum.
Does that mean something, Nick?
Bubs Harris got his nickname because he's always chewing bubble gum.
What?
I'll bet this was some of his. See, it hasn't even begun to dry out yet.
Oh, lots of kids chew bubble gum. I might have picked it up any place.
And when we find you up here, the neighborhood where we expected to find Bubs and Tim, I think that gum means a whole lot.
Nick, look. Across the street, those windows.
That warehouse is on fire, Patsy.
Yeah.
You better turn an alarm. There's a box right in front of the warehouse.
Right, Nick. I'll get it.
Look, Carter, I got a date. I've got to...
What's your hurry?
I'm getting out of here. I mean, I got to go up and...
You wouldn't know anything about that fire, would you?
No. Watch yourself. I'm going to start...
You're not going anywhere, Moxie. You're staying here till I find out what's making you so jittery all of a sudden.
Why, I'll...
Oh, you want to play, do you? Well, how do you like that? Oh, cool. Must have swung harder than I thought.
Nick! Oh, Nick!
Yes, what is it, Patsy?
Just as I turned the alarm, Nick, I thought I heard someone in the building. Listen.
I'll bet that's the boys.
Oh, you've got to save them, Nick.
Here, take my handcuffs.
Yeah.
Fasten Moxie to the steering wheel of the car.
Uh-huh.
I'm going after those boys before they burn to death. Hey, Tim! Bubs, where are you?
In here, this door.
It's locked. Can you open it?
No, it's a padlock.
All right, stand out of the way. I'm going to try to break it down.
I think it gave a little. Try it again.
All right.
Gee, I was afraid nobody'd come and...
Never mind. Where's Bubs?
Over there on the floor. He passed out from the smoke.
Okay, I'll carry him. Come on.
Nick, look. The flames are coming up the stairs. We can't get out that way.
Is there another way out of here, Tim?
There's some windows at the back. Maybe we can jump.
Quick, show me the way. I'll follow with Bubs. There's no time to lose.
How's your ankle, Nick?
Oh, you can stop worrying, Patsy. It's all right.
Well, I guess you were lucky at that to get off with only a sprained ankle after jumping out of a second-story window.
If it wasn't for that pile of trash I landed on, it might have been worse.
Yeah.
And if Bubs hadn't come to before we jumped, it would have been very much worse.
I'm glad neither of the kids was hurt. Do you know yet what's going to happen to them?
Well, I think I'll be able to get them a suspended sentence, depending on their future good behavior, of course.
Well, now that the boys' club is a certainty, their behavior shouldn't be any problem.
Well, I think they've learned their lesson. So since they'll never admire gangsters again, after the way Moxie treated them.
Uh-huh. You know, you never did tell me how you figured out that Moxie killed Mr. Riley.
I didn't know it was Moxie. But I was pretty sure Riley hadn't been shot by one of the boys in that car.
Why?
Because anyone shooting from a car wouldn't have had the gun more than 5 feet above street level.
Mm-hmm.
And Riley was sitting on the top step, his head at least 8 feet above street level.
Well?
The bullet went into the center of his forehead and came out behind his right ear, traveling a downward course.
I see. If it had been fired from the car, the bullet would have traveled upward.
Right. That's why I thought the bullet might have come from the second or third story of that empty building across the street.
It did, too. That's where Bub saw Moxie.
Yes, but the boys thought he was helping them frighten Mrs. Tellman. They didn't even know Riley had been shot until I told them.
So that's why Moxie tried to kill the boys by setting that warehouse on fire, because he knew they'd seen him.
Yeah. See, Moxie had hated Riley ever since Riley sent him up to the penitentiary for that stick-up 7 years ago.
Yeah?
And when the boys told him of their trouble with a woman who lived next door, and also that Riley sat on the front steps of his house every night, well, it looked like a perfect setup for murder.
Yeah, well, I still don't see how you could ever have proved it, though, if Moxie hadn't confessed.
Well, we were lucky to get the proof first, and he confessed later. Wasn't hard once we knew what to look for. We found the dealer from whom Moxie bought a .22 rifle exactly like the one he knew the boys were going to use. And later, we found the gun itself.
So it wasn't such a perfect setup after all.
Well, not for murder, but as far as Moxie was concerned, it turned out to be a perfect setup for the electric chair.
Nick Carter, Master Detective, is presented each week at this time by the Cudahy Packing Company. It is produced and directed by Jock McGregor and is copyrighted by Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. Charlotte Manson is featured as Patsy. Ed Latimer plays Matty. Today's script was written by Jim Parsons. Original music is played by Henry Silverne. This program is fictional, and any resemblance to actual persons living or dead is purely coincidental. This is Michael Fitzmaurice saying, when minutes count, use new post-war Old Dutch cleanser. This is the network for the Indianapolis Speedway race tomorrow, the Mutual Broadcasting System.
I find it amazing that the Cudahy, a packing plant, owned Old Dutch cleanser, and that it was mined in California for a period of time. It then, in 1955, was acquired by Purex, and then the Greyhound Corporation acquired the Consumer Products Division of Purex, which included Old Dutch, in 85, and was combined with Greyhound's Armor Dial Division, forming the Dial Corporation, which was sold off to Henkel in 2003 for $2.9 billion. And yes, it's still available today, although I can't tell you if the formula is the same. They used, back in the day, to produce it, they used pumice, volcanic pumice. And, I don't know if that interests you or not, but I thought I'd bring that up. It might also interest you to know that next day's race, the Indianapolis 500, or the 32nd International 500-mile sweepstakes, that was run on Monday, May 31st, 1948, was won for the second year in a row by the Blue Crown Spark Plug teammates Maury Rose and Bill Holland. They finished 1 and 2. Rose became the second driver to win the Indy in consecutive years. Blue Crown Spark Plugs. I never heard of those, but I've heard of Autolite. I guess, we could know about that. I wonder why we know about Autolite spark plugs. Alrighty, that wraps up our look at May 30th, 1948 to Sunday, 6:30 Eastern Time. Nick Carter, Master Detective, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Up next, Orson Welles in The Lives of Harry Lime.
How many times do you drive along the highway at a pretty fast clip and come upon a policeman at the side of the road writing out a ticket for some unfortunate traffic law violator? What happens? Almost automatically, you slow down to a sensible speed and pay more attention to driving safely. Nobody likes to get a traffic summons, but it's only by even stricter law enforcement that we're ever going to cut down on the shocking and shameful death and accident rate on our highways. That's why we should all get behind local and state safety programs and support any measures that will make driving a pleasure instead of a risk. A proper safety program includes not only more rigid enforcement of traffic laws and stiffer penalties for violating them, but also better public education on safer, saner driving habits and the elimination of dangerous stretches of highway. The surest way to cut down on accidents, though, is for all of us, motorists and pedestrians alike, to be more careful and more sensible about how we drive and walk. Let's all work together to save more lives on the road. It's up to you.
I go down the rabbit hole. Every time I go down the rabbit hole. I mentioned the Blue Crown spark plugs. They were a premium aftermarket spark plug brand from the 30s to the 60s. They sponsored numerous Indy 500 winners. They were known for their high-quality spark plugs. The Blue Crown Spark Plug Special won the Indy 500 three times, in 47, 48 with Maury Rose, in 49 with Bill Holland. And those plugs are highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts of vintage cars. And yes, there are new old stock plugs that are available for purchase. And the Henry Ford Museum does have a Blue Crown Husky spark plug on display, a testament to the brand's significance in automotive history. So there, you learn something every day. Alrighty, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues with the prequel to the motion picture The Third Man, The Lives of Harry Lime, from 72 years ago, May 30th, 1952, Pearls of Bohemia.
Presenting Orson Welles as The Third Man. The Lives of Harry Lime. The fabulous stories of the immortal character, originally created in the story The Third Man, with zither music by Anton Karas.
The police of Milan, like the police of any other town in the world, can sometimes be mistaken. And when they got certain mistaken ideas about me, I didn't stay around to put them right. I thought it'd be simpler just to leave town. So I took the morning train down to Genoa and had lunch at Enrico Ricciardi's. Ricciardi himself brought me brandy after lunch, compliments of the house to an old customer. And when we both had our backs turned, a fly lit on the edge of the glass. Then it wandered off drunkenly along the tablecloth, and I took up a newspaper from the neighboring table, folded it, and swatted. I missed the fly, but I saw the ad printed at the top of one of the columns in the back of the paper. Wanted, it read, wanted multilingual publicist to promote young lady, 23. As I translated that into English, it meant that they wanted somebody who knew a few languages. Well, I did. As for promoting a young lady of 23, I might be qualified there by inclination and by experience. So I topped off the brandy, said so long till later to Ricciardi, and went out to the street, dodged the streetcars, and started up the hill. The advertisement had given an address. The street happened to be one I knew, overlooking Genoa Harbor, on the hill above Ricciardi's. Melody Johnson wasn't home when I got to the address on the hill above Ricciardi's. Melody Johnson. That was the name given in the ad. I didn't know she was a Dixieland trombonist or a sheet music company, but turned out she was neither. The old Italian landlady let me in, and there were photos of Melody all over the house. The landlady said it was very sad, but Melody, though she was so beautiful, had to work for a living dancing at the Genoa Palace, which was where she'd be after 8 that night. I took another look at those pictures, took pity on Melody, and made my plans for after 8 in the evening. In the Genoa Palace dance hall, among those dark Genoa girls waiting for dance partners, I'd have picked out Melody Johnson even if I hadn't seen her photos. She had hair the color of red clover honey and blue eyes that might have been a size or two too big, except that on her they were just right. I bought tickets, the band went into a slow rumba, and I abandoned myself to Melody.
You rumba beautifully.
You don't do so badly yourself, honey.
But I've had so much training.
You say that as if you had regrets.
Regrets is a nice word for chords. Oh, yes, my training's been very thorough. It began back home in New York. But I wanted to see the world.
So you joined a show or a dancing troupe and came to Europe, and the outfit went bust, left you stranded here, right?
That's just about how it started.
Thanks for the dance.
Yes, thank you. But you're an American too, aren't you?
That's right.
Are you over here in Europe on business?
More or less business. My name is Harry Lime. Does that mean anything to you? Don't answer that.
All right, I won't. Mr. Lime, I hope you've bought enough tickets so we can have the next dance.
I bought your whole evening. Look here, with these tickets, we can dance all the way to the French frontier.
Then let's walk out in the garden.
Okay.
It'll be dark and we'll be alone. We can talk, can't we?
What else could we possibly think of to do? Well, we actually got down to business after a while. It seems that Melody Johnson wanted to hire somebody to promote her interest as a beauty queen. She looked like a beauty queen. But as I was kissing Melody Johnson, my sixth sense told me instinctively that Melody was off-key, if you'll forgive the joke. To the five senses, she was a beauty queen, all right, but something made me think there was something more that didn't meet the eye. So that's all there is to it, hmm? You want somebody to sell you as a beauty. Motion pictures, maybe, hmm? Beauty contest, cabaret work?
Yes, Harry. Oh, there's just one thing more. The person will have to be ready to travel.
Oh, when and where?
Very soon. Very, very soon. As to where, well, I'll tell you that when you've told me you'll take the job. Will you take it, Harry?
Well, Melody, I suppose you give me a day to think it over. I was in my usual hangout in Genoa and Ricciardi's the next afternoon, thinking it over and reading the papers, and a fellow with very much the look of a Milan police officer came in. Did he know the whereabouts of one Harry Lime, he asked Ricciardi. Never heard of a guy of that name, answered Ricciardi, of course in Italian. I went on reading the paper, lifting it a little higher, in fact, high enough to hide my face. But I remembered what Melody Johnson had said. The person who took the job she offered would have to be ready to travel. Well, I was ready to travel. Very soon. Goodbye to Genoa.
Thank heavens. Ooh, that awful job in the dance hall.
Arrivederci, Italia.
No, not goodbye to Italy, Harry.
No?
Not quite. The ship stops at Naples on the way.
That's right, then Alexandria. Then where?
Cairo.
Cairo.
That's because of the beauty contest, Harry.
You want to be Miss Pyramids of Giza?
Because of the honor and the publicity value. And then there's a big money prize.
Mentioning money reminds me of something. Look here, let's just move a little further on down the ship rail where nobody can overhear what we say. Now, isn't there something you want to tell me, Melody?
Well, I don't understand what you mean.
Well, this is what I mean. You want somebody to publicize you and promote your interests.
Yes.
That's very natural, but what about this? Doesn't it seem to you just the least bit queer, honey, that you had to work in a taxi dance hall to keep yourself alive?
But, Harry, I told you about the gambling.
You told me you fell in love at Monte Carlo.
With roulette.
All right, but since roulette proved bad for your financial health, isn't it odd that you bought both of us first-class cabins on this ship? Very deluxe accommodations.
No, Harry, it's not odd at all.
Oh, it is.
There was nothing else available. All the other space on the ship was sold. Of
course, it was a possible explanation. Maybe it was a real one. Very spacious up where my stateroom was, deck A, high up. We had a steward for every 3 or 4 cabins up there, the best service. Mine was quite an unusual fellow, my steward. I asked him about himself when we were an hour or 2 out of Genoa. He'd just brought me in some fresh towels.
Here you are, sir.
Thanks, steward.
Not at all, sir.
Hey, you're not Italian, are you? Don't mind my asking?
No.
So that was his story. He'd been at his country's embassy in Brussels when the Russians lowered the curtain on the world at home, and since then he'd done one job and another. Said his name was Balko, in the Bohemian or Magyar, some such language. Paul in English. I said that was what I'd call him. Told him I probably wouldn't be a lot of trouble to him.
But whatever you will require, sir, I will be at your service, naturally.
Oh, thanks. I only mean, Paul, I expect to be out of the cabin most of the time. By the way, if I'm needed, messages, anything of that sort, you probably better try the vicinity of a passenger on upper B deck. That's where I'm likely to be.
The passenger's name, sir?
A young lady, Miss Melody Johnson. I'm sort of employed by her, as you might say.
Can that be true?
Well, you say that as if it meant something to you.
It is only... I have, of course, heard of Miss Melody Johnson, the beauty queen of Monte Carlo, I believe.
That's right. She was.
So then, sir, you are a very fortunate man. To know her, to be employed by her, I'm told she's a very beautiful woman.
Yes. You've never seen her yourself?
I have never seen her, but she has been described to me.
Well, Paul, the steward, wasn't the only one who took a special interest in Melody Johnson. Of course, up to a certain point, this was natural. Melody was probably the most beautiful girl afloat.
How nice it is up here on the deck. So nice and lonely. Just think, in the morning we'll be in Naples. Harry, are you listening to me?
I'm looking at you, Shirley.
Can't you listen to me for a minute?
Divide my attention.
No, seriously, I have a confession to make. There's something I haven't told you. Well, I didn't want to hire only a publicist to promote my good looks. Well, I suppose what I really wanted was sort of a bodyguard.
Oh.
You know, may I tell you something?
Okay, go ahead. Tell me something.
Well, the other night, when I learned who you were, I was frightened a little. Because of your reputation, things I'd heard about Harry Lime here and there. But now, well, here alone with you, I feel secure. I'm happy.
Well, I'd be happy, too, if we were alone.
What do you mean?
Well, when they built that housing back there, the deck 6 or 8 yards, they may not have built a man's head and shoulder and an arm looking around the side of it.
Harry, there is someone.
Sure there is.
A man watching us.
Don't be frightened. Come here to the shoulder of this lifeboat. Oh, damn it.
Yes, all right, Harry.
I'll make it look all right. We'll pretend to kiss. What am I thinking? Come out of my mind. Pretend to. Turn up your face.
Oh, is this a good plan, Harry?
So far, it's a wonderful plan. I kissed her, and then I left her by the lifeboat and turned around and walked back up the deck. The man pulled in like a turtle, shrinking into the angle of the housing. Good evening. Out for the salt air?
Excuse that I have intruded on yourself and the lady. I stopped only to light my cigar.
Well, that's all right, old man. I don't apologize at all. Only take a tip from me.
Senor?
Next time, don't light your cigar after it's already lit. And goodbye, old man. When I squired Melody to her cabin, I went back to my own. Somebody had been there before me. The cabin didn't look gone over, but 1 or 2 small things were out of place. Had somebody found a way to break in? The little Italian fellow with the lit cigar, or Paul the steward? He could have let himself in without any trouble. But what was whoever it was looking for? What did he want? I checked through my things. Nothing was missing. It wasn't until the next day when we docked in Naples that I began to get some idea of what it was all about. Stop along here, driver.
Si, signore.
This is one of the best views, Melody, because that's Vesuvius over there.
Harry, let's get out of the car for a better look.
Well, I don't think we'd better do that, honey. Driver, drive on, will you
But
please?
Harry, why are we going? We haven't half seen it yet.
Well, we didn't stop, Dream Girl, for the view. That Alfa Romeo right behind us has been following us this whole time. We stopped to see if he'd stopped, and he did, so he's following us. And the fellow in the back seat is somebody called Minelli.
Minelli?
Mm-hmm. I made some inquiries. We were coming to the port this morning, and his name is Minelli. Mean anything to you?
Minelli? Oh, no, I don't think it does.
Well, he seems to take some kind of special interest in you. He's tagging us now. Well, Melody, since we couldn't manage to lose Mr. Minelli by car, maybe we can do it by foot.
Well, I know what he wants, Harry. I may as well admit it.
Now, wait a minute. You know what he wants? Well, maybe you ought to tell
Well,
me.
I didn't know if I could trust you.
You better trust somebody.
Oh, I've been so scared. I haven't known what to do ever since I've had them in my possession.
Ever since you've had what in your possession?
The pearls of Bohemia.
The pearls of Bohemia.
I have them in my handbag now.
The pearls of
Oh, if we
Bohemia.
only get away from Manelli somehow. I'll tell you all about it.
Well, I wish you would, honey.
Harry Lime returns in just a moment.
As the ship pulled out of Naples for Alexandria that afternoon, there was a tea dance on the lounge.
I want to tell you now, all about the pearls.
Okay,
Oh, I hardly
I'd
know
like
where to
hear about it.
start.
Why not try the beginning? That sometimes works.
Yes, at the beginning. Well, I suppose the beginning was Monte Carlo. Anyhow, I went into the casino.
And you had the bad luck to win.
Oh, it wasn't even that. I just fell in love with the roulette wheel without any real reason. But it was so exciting, the wheel whirling, all that money, and the calls of the croupier.
I know, honey. I've had a go or two myself.
And since then, since Monte Carlo, I've gambled everywhere. Vienna, the new Kursaal in San Marino, Lindau at Lake Constance, all those places. I've met a lot of wicked people.
Yeah, you had what you might call a crook's tour of Europe.
Yes. That's what it might be called. You see, Harry, I've got gambling fever.
Well, but your luck hasn't been so hot.
No.
Face it.
And that's how I fell into the hands of Zickie.
That's the whole name, Ziki?
No, he has an unpronounceable first name.
Oh.
He comes from somewhere near Prague. I'm not sure exactly. But it's behind the Iron Curtain now, anyway. He got away, escaped from the Russians, and went to Paris.
And you met him in Paris and played two-card faro with him and lost your best ruse on honorary hat.
No, I didn't meet him in Paris.
Oh, your meeting with him comes later?
Yes, he'd been the valet of the Count of Bohemia.
The valet. Oh, then it was the Count he met in Paris.
Yes, he rejoined him there.
Oh.
The Count had only two things left, his pride...
And the pearls of Bohemia.
The pearls from the ancient crown of the Counts of Bohemia.
They're romantic.
Oh, I haven't any idea what they're worth, but it must be a fabulous amount.
I can imagine. Now, suppose you tell me how these pearls got passed along to you, honey.
Well, in the first place, Zickie stole them.
Oh, Zickie stole the pearls, and then what did Zickie do?
Nothing for a while. I suppose he was afraid to move.
Oh, I see. And finally, Zickie did decide to try to dispose of the pearls.
Yes,
and-
I met Zickie in Nice. I've been losing at roulette, and Zickie lent me money to try to recruit.
No.
And then we played cards against each other, and as you said a minute ago, I lost my hat.
The grim picture begins to take shape now. Zickie, am I right, said he'd put you in the way of a means of paying him off.
Yes, that's what he did say.
You would dispose of the pearls.
Yep.
So natural and simple, isn't it? Yeah. In Egypt, this is supposed to be, right?
There's a buyer in Cairo. Well, you know what Cairo is.
Yes, more or less, honey, more or less. The shadier side of sunny Egypt. Well, all right, if you're going to take the pearls of Bohemia to Cairo and sell them...
The money
what-
is to be paid to Zickie in Italy. Some kind of bank transfer. I don't really understand it.
But Zickie, on receiving the money, tears up your IOUs, which is what concerns you.
Yes. Now you know it all.
Yeah.
The whole tawdry story.
It just occurs to me, Melody, that you may have a little difficulty getting those pearls into Egypt. Past the customs, I mean.
Oh, I thought about that. I lie awake at night thinking about it.
You don't have to worry at all, honey.
I don't think I know what you mean.
Just this. Mr. Manelli, at least, is after those pearls. He or somebody else may get them before we reach Egypt. And you wouldn't have to trouble yourself about how to smuggle them in at all. Well, we talked on a little longer without any tangible result. She didn't feel, understandably, that losing the pearls to Manelli was the right solution to her problem. But how was she to be sure of getting them past the Egyptian customs and on to Cairo? We tried the question on several ways, but it didn't seem to be a very good fit. And we left the subject and our drinks and went out on the dance floor. And I took her in my arms. That fit was all right. While we were dancing, a man came into the entrance of the ship's lounge. Stopped a minute and stood looking around. Melody, you didn't get a look at him up on the deck last night. I don't think you even got a good look at him during that chase in Naples today, but look now. There he is. That's Manelli.
That man standing in the door?
Yeah, the very one.
Harry?
What is it? Hey, even a face like yours won't stand that kind of plowing. Why the frown?
That man's name isn't Manelli.
You know him?
I've never met that man, but I remember his appearance. He was pointed out to me a year or so ago. Oh, yes, somewhere on the Riviera. Oh, I'm trying to recall the name I was told. Yes, his name is Vittoria. Vincente Vittoria.
Now, wait a minute. I never met him myself, but there's an international jewel thief called Vincente Vittoria. Very well known.
That's what I was told when that man there in the door was pointed out to me on the Riviera.
Vincente Vittoria saw Melody and me and turned on his heel and disappeared. I left Melody in the lounge, but supplied myself with the key to her cabin. It occurred to me that Vincente Vittoria might think of having a look for the pearls there, while Melody herself was lost in the wonders of Harry Lime and the waltz. The door was locked, but I don't think Melody's stateroom was just as she'd left it. There was a man inside.
Oh, sir. Oh, it is you, Mr. Lime.
Just putting the lady's dainties back in those wardrobe drawers, are you, Stewart?
Oh, yes, sir, yes, that is just what I am doing.
You know, Paul, there may be 2 or 3 things wrong with this picture. Shall I enumerate them for you in order? Okay, this isn't your deck. This is B deck. And if it wasn't B deck, this isn't your block of staterooms. But anyhow, the pearls of Bohemia aren't in those wardrobe drawers, so you're wasting your time, old man.
I understand, sir. I must apologize.
Well, you'll have to apologize to the lady, not to me. But maybe you owe me an apology after all. Was it you who went through my cabin last night, Paul, old man?
Yes, I did that.
Looking for the pearls, of course.
Yes, that is what I was doing.
You know, Paul, this could get you into bad color with your employers here on the ship. Steward who wants to be light-fingered with the passenger's property.
The pearls of Bohemia were stolen from their owner by a man named Zicki. The owner did not wish to have the foreign police arrest a fellow countryman of his, but he had Zicki privately watched. Zicki passed on the pearls to Miss Johnson, and the owner was very much surprised to discover himself that Miss Johnson was sailing for Egypt on this ship. The owner supposed that she was going there to dispose of the pearls.
I see. Well, look, come on up to my cabin. We'll have a drink, shall we, old man?
I could not do that, sir. It would not be proper in a steward. I must decline.
And deprive me of the chance of telling my grandchildren I once had a drink with the Count of Bohemia. Oh, come along. My cabin. Have a drink together, Count. Talk this whole thing out. We made good time to Alexandria, and Melody was still worried.
Harry?
Yes, honey?
What about these pearls? What am I going to do?
You're not going to do anything, honey. You're going to give them to me. I know a trick or two in the smuggling department. Mind if I take this stool here beside you?
The use of the bar is a free to all.
There isn't any need for us to be too polite to each other, Mr. Manelli, or should I say Vittoria? My business with you is business. I see I interest you.
I'm listening.
That's all you got to do, old man, is listen. That and one thing more. That one thing more is pay me 2,000 Egyptian pounds. And believe me, I'm giving you a cheap price. I haven't any opportunity here on shipboard to find out the real value of the pearls of Bohemia. Besides, I want a quick payoff and a get-out-of-town kind of deal. See what I mean?
You are offering to sell me the pearls.
You are remarkably astute, old man, and I'm glad to see you come up to your reputation. Yes, that's right. I have them here in my pocket.
I see.
But ask yourself before you wonder if you ought to knock me over the head and steal them from me. If you, Vincente Vittoria, known jewel thief, ought to risk taking them through the customs, Or shall I take them through the customs and deliver them to you intact in Alexandria for the small price of 2,000 Egyptian pounds? Done? Huh? A bargain? I thought it would be, old man.
Have you anything to declare, Mr. Lime? To the Egyptian customs?
Well, my dragoman has got my bags, but you'll find nothing dutiable in them. I have these pearls, though. Here, see? 16 or 20 of them.
What is their value, Mr. Lime?
Oh, not much. A few of your Egyptian piastres. You can see for yourself they're not real. Imitation.
Harry Lime returns in just a moment. And now, Harry Lime.
Those pearls were imitation, all right, but pretty convincing. Convincing enough anyhow to deceive an expert like Vincente Vittorio. He was an honest man of his particular sort and promptly paid me the 2,000 Egyptian pounds when I turned the pearls over to him at a little sidewalk cafe in Alexandria. The pearls ought to have been convincing, of course, because they were made for a very special use. When Mrs. asked to build some such lady, goes to the opera with a couple of 100 carats of diamonds on her fingers, they're very likely to be paste, perfect duplicates, fine imitations, and the real diamonds stay locked up at home or in the bank. That's what fellows like Vincente Vittorio have done to the world of the upper classes, and the world of Bohemian counts is just about the same. So it happened that Count Paul of Bohemia had in his steward's locker the imitation set that matched the real pearls of Bohemia, and I got the real pearls from Melody. Well, I just traded. Melody had said, you remember, that Count Paul had only two things left, his pride and his pearls. He kept his pride, and I thought he might just as well have the pearls, too. Now, all of this left me somewhat under obligation to Melody, and I know quite a few people in Cairo, so I may have had something to do with her being voted Miss Pyramids of Giza. The prize money got her out of debt to that fellow Ziki anyhow, and then there was the dough I got from Vittoria for the phony pearls. Melody and I had a lot of fun spending those 2,000 Egyptian pounds, but that, as the fellow says, is another story. So long for now, and remember, all that glitters is not gold, but it ain't hay either.
Lives of Harry Lime, the Third Man, May 30th, 1952. Of the Third Man motion picture of Joseph Cotton, Aldi Bally, Trevor Howard, Orson Welles is probably the most remembered. Welles had his fingerprints all over the movie, and it remains a classic of British cinema. And a lot of people consider Welles' performance as Lime one of the greatest screen performances of all time. And the first prequel, to my knowledge, because The Lives of Harry Lime occurs before the Third Man motion picture, because Lime was killed in that picture. Alrighty, from 72 years ago, May 30th, 1952, The Lives of Harry Lime here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Up next, Superman.
Did you know that annually in our country, 340,000 homes are destroyed by fire? 11,000 lives and hundreds of millions of dollars are lost in these fires in homes. Don't run the risk in your own home of a costly and tragic fire, which can be prevented. Check now and regularly on the 5 simple points of fire prevention. First, don't smoke in bed or discard cigarettes or matches carelessly. 2, Clean out old rags, newspapers, and other inflammables from the closets, attic, and cellar. 3. Repair or replace broken or defective electrical wiring or electrical equipment. 4. Use non-inflammable cleaning fluids. And 5. Keep matches in a safe place, out of the reach of small children. It is a simple fact that nearly all the fires which destroy American homes could be prevented if these simple rules are followed. So, follow them in your own homes. Remember, don't gamble with fire. You can't win.
And tomorrow on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we will have another day of crime with This Is Your FBI, Suspense and the Man Who Would Be King, Let George Do It, Dragnet, and Claudia. That's coming up mañana. But right now, another episode in Superman and the story of Mr. Deutsch and the radium mine. This episode goes back 83 years to May 28th, 1941.
Presenting the transcription feature, Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can leap tall buildings at a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice.
And now to our story. When we last saw Clark Kent, he and the Secret Service man Lewis and an old caretaker were approaching a small shack on the edge of a cove. Lewis had separated from them and was advancing toward the shack along the beach. Kent and the caretaker were taking a narrow, tree-shaded path through the brush. Darkness hangs low over the water, and the silence is broken only by the shrill chirping of crickets.
How many men did you say you saw pushing that car into the water?
Well, I didn't say, mister. I recollect there was 2.
Uh-huh.
They waited till she sunk, then they went into the shack. I got a feeling that maybe it's them foreign fellas who was using the big house on the cliff. You know about them, don't you?
Yes, I do.
That's why I stopped you on the road to tell you.
Uh-huh.
I figured you was government fellas. There's been a whole parcel of them roaming around the big house.
Yeah.
We better go easy now. We're nearing the shack. Where's that Secret Service fella?
I can't see him from here, but he's approaching the shack from the beach.
We're about as close as we can get now without busting in. See anything?
No, not a thing. I'll try the door.
You better be careful, mister.
Drop down!
I'm hit, mister.
Easy now, take it easy.
I knew it. I knew there'd be trouble.
Where were you hit?
Here. Right here.
Over the heart, that's bad. I'll get you to a doctor, don't worry. Now, you'll be all right.
I can't move.
Steady now.
I won't last long. Not very long. Not very.
Oh, he's gone. I suppose I should tear into that shack at Superman and make them pay for this. But that wouldn't get me what I want. Deutsch may be the brains of this gang, but I need him to lead me to the rest of them. I wonder where Lewis is. He must have heard those shots. That should bring him running. Oh, probably shooting at him, too. Well, I've got to get inside that shack as Clark Kent. It's the only way I can learn anything.
I give up. Stop shooting. Come forward with your hands in the air. All right. We had you covered with 2 guns. Don't try any funny work. Stop where you are. Open the door, Hans. Put the gun in his back. Bring him in.
Yeah, Doctor. Go ahead. Inside.
All right.
Turn on the light, Hans. I have him covered.
Jawohl.
I have him covered.
Jawohl.
So, Herr Kent. Again, we have the honor of entertaining you, eh? But this time the circumstances are slightly different, no?
The circumstances don't matter, Dr. Deutsch. It's always a pleasure to see you.
That, Herr Kent, is what you call sarcastic. I would suggest that you dispense with the clever remarks.
Oh.
How many men are with you?
I'm all alone.
You lie. We saw 3 men get out of the car. You are not stupid, Mr. Kent.
Well, since you know how many there were, why ask me?
Because I choose to, and I expect an answer. Where is the 3rd man?
The 3rd?
You heard me. We have accounted for you as the Secret Service man, Lewis.
Where is he, sir?
Well, if you must know, you murdered him. He's out there in front of the shack.
Who is he?
Just a harmless old man, a local resident.
Well, he is certainly harmless now, even if he was not before. Keep your hands up. Search him, Hans.
Edison Bavasta.
Good. You may lower your hands, Mr. Kent.
Thank you.
Keep a sharp lookout at the window, Hans.
Well, you've got quite a setup here, Dr. Deutsch. Shortwave sending and receiving set, photographic apparatus. And what's that big control board with all the fancy dials?
That is none of your business, Herr Kent.
Oh.
You know, by all that is right, I should shoot you down like a dog.
Well, what are you waiting for? You've got the gun.
No, you are worth more alive than dead, at least for the present. I have a few scores to settle, and you will help me settle them.
Really?
Yes, really. After that is done, you will suffer the penalty of having interfered with my plans.
I suppose Mr. Lewis will suffer the same penalty.
There is no question about that.
Where is he?
In a safe place. Enough of these questions. I will ask a few. I understand Miss Lane met with an accident. Is that true?
No. No, it isn't. Fortunately, we found the bomb in time.
Hans, you hear that?
Yeah, Doctor. I hear it.
That is too bad. We will have to devise another method. What is that?
A storm, Herr Doctor.
Contact Schmidt by radio. Tell him we will send the plane over within the hour.
Yeah, Herr Doctor.
You must have quite an organization, Deutsch.
More than you can imagine, Herr Kent. That is why we cannot lose. You will see shortly how well organized we are. But first, let me have the papers from your pocket.
What for?
Never mind. Give them to me.
All right. Here they are.
You have here what is called a police card with your signature on it?
Yes.
Good. Well, Hans?
The tubes are warming, Doctor. I will call him now. 649, Antworten. 649, Antworten. 649.
With Kent a willing captive in order to learn more about Deutsch and his gang, and the whereabouts of Lewis a mystery, the little shack on the cove is a scene of tense drama as a storm breaks over it. Meanwhile, back at the Daily Planet office, Lois Lane is still working on the report.
Jimmy, you still here? I thought Mr. Kent told you to go home.
Well, he told you the same thing, Miss Lane.
Well, I have work to do. Now run along home.
Well, I'm not tired. Oh, Miss Lane, a messenger just delivered this envelope for Mr. White. It's marked important.
Let me see it. Editor Perry White, Daily Planet Building. Important. Deliver at once. No, who could be sending an important message at this hour? When did Mr. White leave, Jimmy?
Oh, a long time ago.
Oh, maybe I'd better open it. Typewritten. Jimmy, it's from Clark Kent.
No fooling.
Listen. Dear Mr. White, I need your help. Please come at once. I have drawn a map to show you where I will meet you, Clark Kent.
Oh, there's a map, all right. Gee, what do you think it is, Miss Lane?
I don't know, but I think I'd better call the police.
Well, I wouldn't do that if I were you. If Mr. Kent wanted the police, he would have asked for them.
I need your help. Please come at once. I'll call Mr. White. Hate to do it at this hour.
Oh, wasn't Mr. Kent supposed to go to the naval base with that Secret Service man?
So I understood.
Oh, gee, according to this map, he's nowhere near there.
Wait a minute. Let me see that map. Good heavens, you know where he is?
No, where?
About half a mile away from that house on the cliff. The house Dr. Dorth was using as a hideout. There's no answer, Mr. White. Well, I don't know what to do, Jimmy.
I know what I'm going to do.
What?
I'm going down there to help Mr. Kent.
Jimmy, don't be silly. Give me that letter. Jimmy.
So long, Miss Lane. See you later.
Jimmy, come back. Jimmy.
Gee, mister, it sure was nice of you to pick me up. This is going to save me a lot of hiking.
Where'd you say you were going?
The old ocean road.
Yeah? What's down there?
Well, I've got to meet a friend of mine. You don't have to take me that far if it's out of your way.
Well, I'm trucking this load of flour into the city, but I ain't in no hurry. I'll drop you off, son.
Oh, gee, thanks. Oh, listen to that thunder. There's a storm coming.
How's your dog?
He's fast asleep in my lap. You know, I just picked him up on the road about an hour ago. When it started thundering, he came running out of the bushes. I guess he was frightened.
Yeah, dogs don't like thunder.
He's a funny-looking mutt, but I kind of like him. I'm going to call him Storm because he came to me on account of the thunderstorm. Say, feel his ears. They're like silk.
Yeah, they are.
I never had a dog. But sometimes when you're alone, a dog can be a great friend.
Yeah.
You like dogs, mister?
Yeah, I like 'em.
I had one once, but he got run over.
Oh, that's too bad. Look, he's waking up. Hi, Storm, old fella. He sure sounds happy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Well, we turn in here. Old Ocean Road's up a ways. A funny place to meet anyone.
Well, you see, it's a special friend of mine. Oh, it's all right, Storm. Don't be frightened.
Well, here you are. Old Ocean Road.
Oh, thanks a lot, mister.
Right.
Call out, Storm. Come on, hop down. Attaboy.
Yeah, I don't see nobody waiting for you, son.
Oh, my friend must be around somewhere. I'll find him. Storm, come back. Hey, Storm. Oh, he ran into the woods.
He's chasing a rabbit.
I'm going to find him. Storm.
Wait, I'll help you look for him.
Storm. Hey, Storm.
He went that way. Come on, son.
Here, Storm. Here, Storm.
Well, that ought to bring him back.
Oh, I see him. He's down at the water. Maybe he's thirsty.
Ah, that's salt water, boy. Hey, what's that big thing down there?
What? It's a seaplane. That's the size of it.
Now, what do you suppose a seaplane's doing there?
Gee, I don't know. Here, Storm. Here, boy.
Something about that seaplane your dog likes. Look at him. He hopped up on the wing.
Hey, Storm, get down off there. Storm.
Nothing doing. Look at him. He hopped right into the cabin.
I gotta get him out. Can you lift me up on the wing, please?
I guess so. Don't fall off. That water's plenty deep there. Here, get a grip on my shoulder.
Okay.
There. That's it. Up you go.
Okay.
Watch it now, son. Don't slip.
Oh, I'm all right. I'll crawl along to the cabin. Darn that dog. If he wasn't such a funny-looking mutt, I'd leave him here. But nobody else would want him.
How you doing?
Swell. I'm climbing into the cabin. Storm, where are you? Gosh, it's dark in here. Storm! Oh, where'd he go? Storm! Oh, there you are. Come here, you crazy pooch. Storm, look out, you'll get me! Ouch! Right into the instrument panel. Gosh, what happened? We're taking off! Help! Help!
Motors roaring, the giant seaplane skims across the water and rises into the dark, foreboding sky, carrying Jimmy and his dog with it. Is there anyone at the controls of the mysterious plane? Where is it headed? Thrills and excitement are coming, so keep listening.
Don't forget, tune in again for the next thrilling episode with Superman.
Look, up in the sky!
The bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
83 years ago, May 28th, 1941, Superman. Looks like Storm's getting Jimmy into a bunch of trouble. As usual, Bud Collyer, Superman, Joan Alexander is Lois Lane, and Jackie Kelk is Jimmy Olsen. Yes, that Jackie Kelk. All righty, tomorrow we will have more crime and more drama for you. That'll be here tomorrow. But visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows. Learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can buy me a copy. To our friends who listen to us, and I'll try to mention this earlier in the show tomorrow, our friends who listen to us on YouTube, and if you're using an app to watch YouTube, can I suggest you get the Spreaker app? If you get the Spreaker app, you can hear our show just as easily and use a lot less bandwidth. Check that out at Spreaker, SPREAKER.com, or check your app store for the Spreaker app. Have yourself a great day, and we will be back tomorrow. Classic Radio Theater, I'm Wyatt Cox.